We're live. Hi guys, really sorry for the delayed start tonight. It's been a little bit hectic. It's been our first day in the brewery and we're kind of really chuffed, pleased, overwhelmed and a little bit hectic, but thanks for joining us. And
I'm actually out of breath. We've been
running around last minute
to try and sort it. So just to say thanks to Sam and the team. Hell of a job you've done with the equipment here, guys, and I know you've worked like blue ass flies to kind of get this clear for us to be able to do this here today.
So just in case you guys are wondering, we never do this for some reason. I think we kind of got used to our YouTube sessions, but we never introduce ourselves anymore. So hi guys, I'm Wayne, Brew York's MD.
This is Deck and I'm Ant.
On my right we've got Les Brabham, the production director. And our guest today, if you can see on the far right, is JT from Drop Project, who happens to be one of the consultants on board our brewery expansion. So we figured while he was on site, I thought it might be a good chance to drink some of his beer and tease you guys with what you'll be able to try yourselves. So we're drinking...
Yeah, so what we got here is, this is our only core range beer really. It's Shifty, it's a double dry hop New England Pale Ale. And it's... basically a 5.2% just easy crusher with lots of mosaic and citra, and it's our just kind of a go-to weapon of choice really. We're going to we do a lot of different beers, a lot of different brewing, so this is the one we consistently seem to come back to.
And Drop Project's a bit of a super group in the industry, is that fair to say?
Oh, yeah, I don't know about that.
I feel like we're in a super group now, sat in these boy band like stools. And,
No, Drop Project's we're a little over a year old. We picked a hell of a time to start a brewery. It's been a wild ride so far, but we've had a bit of fun with it, and it seems to be going okay. Making a few waves here and there, and just enjoying it and staying alive at this point, I think, just with everything going on and racing between sites.
And adapting every day to the new legislation or requirements that we have to do as a brewery.
Yeah, so for a lot of people, probably obviously you're following this channel, you probably know what's going on here, but we're actually building our own brewery down in Mitcham, and being involved in this project and the other one, the last thing I wanted was for them to both happen at the same time, and it's exactly what's happened, and that's why I'm spending my weekend with these wonderful chaps up here. So
I thought it was because you loved us.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that too, obviously. Yeah.
So welcome to all our subscribers tonight. So we've had a massive surge in subscriber numbers this month. I think it may well be beer number 4 on our live tasting tonight. That's helped with that.
Which may well be the best beer we've ever made.
Well, you got that to look forward to before 9 o'clock to be drinking a 14% Imperial Stout. So.
Swiftly after the 12% of this.
Yeah, so we've got a pretty insane lineup tonight for tasting.
Yeah, 2 glasses of wine.
Basically, in fact, when you put it like that, it's not that bad. But it's a little bit bigger than a glass of wine.
It's more respectful when you say, well, yeah. I mean, if you said I had a pint of wine versus 15%, barrel aged, whatever it might be.
And a taster of it. So, and the other bit is thanks everyone, all of our subscribers who've actually managed to switch across to the new direct debit system. I know it hasn't been the smoothest of rides, but we've had massive uptake there. I think we've got about 75% of our customers moved across, and what that means is we'll be able to get the boxes picked quicker. We'll be able to get your subscriptions out to you right in the first week of each month. I think you've got them a lot quicker this month. Unfortunately, our communications from sending them out might have confused a few people, so apologies for that. So it's been a pretty hectic month considering that it was January and things were closed, but we're glad to be where we are now and the kit's almost ready to go. So,
and thankfully this has been used today and it's got a lot
like a giant radiator,
which we would be proper frozen without this right now, because I think the actual ambient is about -1 or something.
So while we're drinking, we should have probably said if you guys can take out your John Biscotti, your Mocha Man, keep it outside the fridge, you want it to warm up a little bit, we've got a challenge here to try and warm ours up in this 0 degree warehouse to bring it up to a nice drinking temperature.
I don't think we'll be winning that fight, but
a little pre-cook.
We'll warm them up there. Or they've got them down on the floor now, let's just move them down to the bottom of the tank to warm. So if you want to pour your first beer for this, sorry, before we do that, our best I'm not going to rush it, but actually I'm going to put it to one side so I can drink it when I run out of the other beer. So our first beer for tonight is Yuzu IPA, which is the collab that we did with our street food vendor Yuzu. We've done the...
It's been delicately passed to us out of shot by Jotta.
So you probably see the giant can image on screen, Yuzu. I'm going to take it down and pass it on.
Oh, cheers.
Thank
And a glass. So yeah, because we're not in the bar, we don't have tables or anything, so it's trying to get used to the...
Yeah, this has all been a little bit last minute, so we've got some... is that mine?
Yeah.
Some little mini casks down here that we're using as a table. So we'll tell you a little bit more about that beer in a minute. First of all, we need to give you the usual rundown of how things are going to happen tonight. So as always, we're going to be sampling 4 beers. Sorry guys, we cheated a little bit, we're doing 5. So we've had one of JT's beers first. Ordinarily, we would have an audience sat in the background to this, submitting their own questions, etc. Unfortunately, we are once again in times of lockdown, so that is not a possibility. But it is definitely something we will look to do again in the future.
Sorry, we decided to try and have some live feedback at the same
Right,
time.
well, we'll come back to that in a second. Yeah, cheers. So once again, we will have an audience in the future, so just keep checking the socials for ways to find out how you're able to join us. So as Wayne has highlighted for the first time ever, we've promised this for a while. You now find us in our new brewery location, Handley Park, with an almost fully operational, I want to say Death Star at that point.
Yes.
Almost fully operational brewery. So the sequence for the beers tonight, it's, I think if we look at the average ABV, this is going to be the biggest set we've ever attempted to do in a single sitting. So we're doing the Things Yuzu, which Yuzu To Me, which is 5.6. I think we're then going on to 6%, is it, the Black Forest Girls?
Yeah, BFG.
Yeah. We're then going on to a 12% Biscotti flavoured pastry stout. And then we're going on to what I've already described as one of the best beers I think we've ever made. It's a wild turkey barrel-aged version of a breakfast stout that we did with Turning Point. And it's been in barrel for 18 months. And it's been double infused with coffee and cacao. And it is tasting epic. So if the wheels haven't fallen off by that point, that's probably the point at which they will fall off.
I'm just going to keep chuckling at the comments all night. So the one that made me laugh earlier is my daughter's just asked, is that Fat 4 sat in the middle? and then we've got
Yes, it is.
someone called Lewis Russell. Who's that weirdo in the bobble hat?
Lewis.
I wonder who that is.
Right, well, Lewis, is this a good time to tell you that we've named one of those fat vessels over there after you? Yeah, there we go.
And then we got another one which was which made me laugh, which was has Lee washed his hair tonight?
Yeah, L'Oreal, because I'm worth it.
And then, lots of these. I'll try not to answer them. Someone's asked what the mini minions are in front of us.
They're some of our pins. They hold 4.5 gallons of beer.
Cat's beer.
About 36 pints. So as we go along, we'll be talking about the concept behind each beer, why we perhaps named it as we did, the recipe construction, etc. If there's any interesting tidbits about that beer, we'll go through that as we go through. As always, the more interactive we can make this, the better it's going to be. So the more questions you can throw at us, the more we'll enjoy it, the more you'll enjoy it. So some of you have sent some through in advance. You'll see an occasional hand coming to screen, passing those messages across. If, however, live on the night you want to get messages across, or rather questions across, you're able to do so by just typing a comment below this video, and then the team behind the camera will take a note of those and pass them through. And as Wayne's already demonstrated there, we do have the ability to see some of those lives, and if you want to shout out, hopefully Wayne will be picking up on some of that there.
It's small text, and by the time we get onto the 12% beers, I can't imagine I'll be able to read it very well, but we'll try and catch it at live. All I can see at the moment is an iPad that's about to fall out. So.
Oops.
Yeah, this is a good idea.
So before we get into that, final bit is, as we do each beer, we will try and take a specialist subject. So always you'll find out the beers that are going to be coming along in the next YouTube tasting pack. And then there are a couple of other things we're going to do this time round. One is a general update from Wayne, and then we're going to be having a little chat amongst ourselves about what all this kit is that we're now surrounded by and what capability we have just established here.
Just warm my hand.
Yeah. Okay. So into the first beer.
So Yuzu IPA, is this me or you?
It is me.
Brilliant.
So this is a kind of New England style pale, so it's been made with lots of malted oats, malted wheat, so we're going for a kind of hazy grain bill. We're going kind of soft in terms of the flavour, and then we've added into it probably the most expensive fruit we've ever worked with, yuzu. Stunned as to how much that actually costs. So as Wayne's already said, it's a collab with our new street food vendor that's just joined us in our beer hall. They've been serving, however, in our Pocklington bar for at least a year.
Yeah, so basically we bought the Pocklington bar 2 months before the first lockdown, which was great. So I know Joe's joining us tonight on the live stream. I've seen her post a question already. So Joe manages our Pocklington bar, so cheers Joe. It's been a fun year, I guess. But Yuzu have done the food there for us since we opened, and they just launched in our Leeds bar, which isn't even open yet, but they're doing the food there at the moment. So they've got some pretty awesome food going. We enjoyed some of their bows and ramen.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want to know what food they do, look at your can. You'll see there's a nice bowl of ramen on there, there's some bows, so there's some gyoza, which is little steamed dumpling things, which are epic.
Yeah. We've had to settle for pizza ourselves tonight, given that we're so far from the brewery, but the original brewery. But you guys can get it delivered from Deliveroo, Uber Eats, and the rest of them.
So Yuzu, as well as being our excellent food vendor, is described as being Japanese lemon. It's kind of a cross between an orange and a lemon, but probably leaning more towards the lemon. It gives it a beautiful, if slightly more delicate citrus character. What's your thoughts on this one then?
Is a really nice complexity to it, especially on the nose. Just reading on the can, just seeing Sabro and Citra as well, and then the Yuzu. It's definitely not a cheap beer to make.
No, it really is.
And Cryo too, just to to kick it all off. It's
to add it up there.
Yeah, so the hops we've gone for in this one is we've gone Citra, which it'll come as no surprise to anyone. It's so called because it lends a very high citrus character to a beer, and then we back that up with a low percentage of Sabro and Laurel. So on their own, they're both quite big character hops, but when you use them in support of something like Citra, they can be really good. If you use them in high proportion, Sabro is probably the very definition of Marmite.
Absolutely.
In the beer world.
It's a love or hate job.
Yeah, it's got this kind of fake pineapple thing going on. I was thinking pineapple chunks. When
I got coconut and pineapple. Is my favorite thing. It's just the coconut edge. It can just once you see it, it cannot be unseen in the beer, and you either love that or you don't get down with it at all.
The other thing I've noticed in it, you can get like a faux barrel aging effect with it. So you use that hop, but it tastes like the beer was barrel aged. We did it with a dark mild. The first time I brewed a dark mild, and it was really enjoyable. I really thought that beer was super cool, but not many other people did, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is where we geek out and name experimental hops. It has a sister hop called HBC 472. Sexy name, I know, and that is distinctly known for adding a wood barrel character to a beer. So Sabro and that works great in something kind of red or the darker end of the spectrum.
So I've got a few Sabro fans commenting at the moment.
Here we go.
Coconut and fairy liquid.
So the hop it most commonly gets compared to is probably Sriracha Ace, because that's the other really
another house divider. Yeah.
That's known to have a dill-like character, I think is how that's most commonly described. I think it's kind of a creamy dill. I hate Sriracha Ace.
It's been so long since I've brewed with it. I've kind of deleted it from my sensory memory at this point. So I must actually get a try with something with Sriracha and again just to.
I remember we found a bag of it at the back of the hop store probably 2 years ago, and Ian from Wild Weather was on site and he said he loved it. I said, you can fucking have it. It's yours, take it.
So
I did the first F-bomb tonight. So whoever had the sweepstake on that, it was me.
Yeah, and I'll be the first to go to the toilet, I bet, because I'll have to mount Lee to get past to get to the toilet. So I'll put my mask on, so it won't be too bad.
They have sweepstakes on who goes to the loo first.
Ah,
if you're a gambling man, you put your money on him going to the loo first.
Yeah. It's nothing to do with the couple of pints I have before we go on. So that's Yuzu IPA. So I hope you guys like it. There's a bit more for us to drink yet of that beer, but if you've got any specific questions about the beer, fire them in. I'm just going to give you a little bit of an update about what's been going on at the moment. So obviously with bars still shut, there's not much demand for cask beer, so we haven't brewed any cask batches. And with the transition to the new site, we had to be quite strategic about what beers we were brewing when we could can them, when we could move all the equipment up here. So we won't be brewing any cask beer for a good few weeks yet until we get a bit of an announcement from the government about where things are heading. But we do still have some mini casks available. So for the next, I guess, probably 2 more weeks, maybe 3 at best, we'll have some more mini casks still available in the web store. And what we tried to do is mix things up a little bit and put some high ABV wild mini kegs. And I can't believe you guys have been buying them in the volume you have. So just a bit of background. We've launched a lot of barrel aged beers this week, JT. We've got Buffalo Trace barrel aged Empress Don Coco, one of the highest rated beers we've ever made. It's one of my favourites we've ever done.
And also last year's World Beer Awards UK Best Barrel Aged Beer.
Yeah, so it's got a few accolades.
I can't mention it without saying that.
It's got some good followers, but it's obviously a very expensive beer to make. So it's about £8.50 a can for a 440ml can. We brought the I don't know why, but I asked the guys to put some into mini kegs because obviously you need a 5 litre 10.6% barrel aged beer, and not thinking many people would buy them, but these guys bought how many did we have? Six of them in the first 6 hours they were on sale.
Yeah, well,
they're about
we were
£70 a mini keg.
Yeah, and we just worked out pre-filming that you guys need to go careful if you bought one of these because it's like 70 units.
Jesus.
So it's like 5 weeks worth of recommended intake in one little mini cask.
And weirdly, that the £70 per mini keg represents amazing value. It's about 25% discount on what if you bought it as a standalone can.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you've just got a partner who really loves barrel aged beer, the two of you could probably session one in a weekend session. But yeah, it's
that's the word you would use for it.
Yeah, no, I mean that's more of a binge.
But yeah, we don't encourage irresponsible drinking, but once you try it, you'll really love it. I hope.
Well, our actions may say something different to that today.
Yeah.
We shall see. So first question coming in. What yeast have you used in the Yuzu? And that is from Peter.
Peter Riley. He's one of our regulars, isn't he?
I think it was nothing particularly interesting. If I was to brew this again, I would use something like London Ale 3 because that leans towards this style, the hazy one. But I think we just used US 05, possibly backed by a bit of Windsor, something like that.
I think it works really well because it's not, I wouldn't describe it at all as a dryness, but there's a cleanness to this beer, and then you get that big grapefruit kind of tang at the back of it. It just tickles the sides of the tongue, and not in a citric way, just in a very like zingy way, and it's just really nice. Just brings you back for another one.
I quite like that. Some people don't really like grapefruit in a beer, but I'm a big fan of grapefruit in a pale ale, and it just, the back of your mouth.
It's just right on the sides. It just.
I love the way that a beer can continue to develop post packaging. So I would say when I consumed this in tank, it had a nice gentle citrus yuzu character to it, but now I'm really getting the yuzu coming through.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's still delicate because yuzu is not that prominent, but yeah.
For something with fruit in as well, it's incredibly balanced. It just works. It's powerful up front and just very nice medium body, and it just hits you right at the back and the nice thing in the finish. It's lovely.
Thank you. I hope the guys at home are enjoying it as much.
So
I'm sure they'll tell us if not.
We've made it. We've said a couple of times about brewing here. So this weekend's going to be a busy weekend, trying to take advantage of JT while he's here and get the kit commissioned, working out what works and how the different bits and pieces function. We've got a pretty complex panel which you probably can just about see on the left of the screen. Oh no, you can't actually. So yeah, there's a complex panel there that pretty much controls most of the bits and pieces. Guys are going to familiarise themselves with that, and hopefully it'll all run smoothly. We're going to be brewing a beer with JT, aren't we? Not just a commissioning beer with Drop Project. So do you want to? Is this the teaser for later on?
It doesn't matter when we describe it. So between JT and I, we decided we want to do something really test this kit. So we're going upper end for ABV. We're going to do a dipper. JT's got a good relationship with a New Zealand hop collective called Hop Revolution.
Yeah.
So it's in fact going to be a 3-way collab.
It will be a nice 3-way.
And we're going to be using.
So we have Fresh Nelson and Mocha. And the Nelson is allegedly absolutely banging.
Yeah, we are told their Nelson is epic, and it must be because is it James at Verdon?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
he's just bought 3 ton of it.
Yeah,
and I don't think he'd be doing that unless he thought this stuff was epic.
I'm a huge Nelson fan. It gives you the wine-like notes.
It
at the back
really
of the
has
palate.
like a lovely white wininess to it.
Yeah, it's a great hop, and we've only ever been able to get small quantities, so we actually use it in our sour beer, obviously.
Yeah.
'Cause if you've got small quantity, use it in a sour. But Goose Willis, which is a gooseberry full sour, it just works really well in that combo. But yeah, I can't wait to try this beer, and double IPAs are my downfall.
Yeah, great beer to test the kit as well. I mean, just take it to the upper ends of its abilities, and see where this big old mash tun shines.
Well, we're kind of getting ahead to the capability of some of this kit, but behind Wayne is a Whirlpool kettle, behind me is a Whirlpool kettle. In an ordinary setup, you'd have one of them. But me and Wayne are somewhat greedy, so we've got two of them. And what that allows you to do is to put one hop addition in there and steep your hops at one particular temperature, and then move your beer across to the other one and do a steep with the other hops, perhaps at the same temperature, perhaps at a different temperature. And then you're going to get different characters coming through depending on what you're trying to accentuate from each of those hops. So that's what we'll be looking to do with that beer. And we're going for a 20 grams per litre dry hop beer.
Yeah, just a sprinkle.
Just a little sprinkle.
Just a sprinkle on top, just to give it an edge.
I think you're going to taste the hops, guys.
So a big difference between what we do at our current site in the city centre is that because we can't separate these, if we choose, say, the two different hop combo we're doing, we'd have to put Nelson in for 10 minutes, then maybe drop some Mocha in for another 10 minutes, but the Nelson hasn't disappeared anyway. Yeah. So you then got that Nelson in again for a further 10 minutes. So you're not getting the...
Possibly pouring out unintended bitterness.
Exactly. You're getting other flavours that we hadn't intended in the beer, whereas this will give us much more intricacy, and we can get some, hopefully, we can dial in some really, really cool recipes, and the pale beer in particular, you should be able to notice it.
So we'll be geeking out a little bit more shortly about this kit around us, but before that, another question. What would you suggest as a snack pairing with this? And that's from Craig. Well, besides the obvious ones, which are pictures on your can, get them in orders to use it, or give them a little plug. So something fruity like this. I mean, for any beer, I'm just going to pair jalapeno Sniders with it.
Oh God, I miss them. I so miss them.
I don't know if it's so much of a snack, but just classic pub scampi as well, because you just get that little bit of lemon hit. It just instantly wants fish on it.
Scampi fries.
Yeah, maybe scampi fries.
Yeah, just make sure your friends are eating them as well.
Yeah.
Or it gets unsociable.
So we've had a couple of, lots of interesting questions, but one that just sprung to mind then was, are we going to be doing any of these sessions from the Leeds bar when it opens? And 100%. The intention is to once the bars reopen, we want to get a TFI Friday style vibe going on with a live audience and talking to you guys, interacting, doing the live stream. We did it briefly in the York bar before lockdown hit again, so we've obviously got Pocklington as well. We'd like to do one up there, crossing Leeds, a big launch across there. And the other really cool thing we're excited about this year is we've got a lot of festivals penciled in. Fingers crossed these are all going to go ahead, and they all seem to land on the same weekend as we're supposed to be doing live streams, so we could be doing some live streams from some of the big beer festivals this year, which would be awesome. It could be, and we'd have amazing guests because we do them alongside amazing breweries, so it could be dangerous.
I already know what's going to happen. Right, we're going to be sat there with hangovers from the previous night at the beer,
grumpy and miserable,
confronted with beer again.
Oh, you want us to drink a Schofferhofer? Brilliant.
I'm sure we'll get through it. Your last hand didn't grip it tight enough, and now it rips them. Right, you can read one. Now it's ripped in half.
I just got to read Nadia's writing, sorry. Will you be attending Bristol Craft Beer Festival? Need to know whether I need to buy a ticket, from Jono. Is that one on the list? Yeah, so I'm pretty sure we are. We're just finalising things at the moment, so we've...
Is that one of the We Are Beer ones?
Yeah. So we basically spoke to the guys at We Are Beer. We want to do it, and we think we are. So as long as the festival goes ahead, we should be there. I haven't been to Bristol ever, so I can't wait. It's going to be a long weekend of beer drinking. And Ant, one of our guys behind the camera, can show us all the cider pubs to go into.
Nice.
So the other thing we wanted to talk about was the first brew on this kit. So today we were hoping to do quite a lot, which we realistically never were going to get a chance to do. But one of the first beers we're going to brew here this weekend, you'll be pleased to know, is a lager, which is kind of unlike us, but it's a Mexican lager. So we figured with what's going on at the moment, you all wanted a replacement for Corona, so we thought we'd come up with a Mexican lager.
So,
No, that's not the reason we're brewing it.
so one of the guys behind the camera right now is our new head brewer, Matt, who has joined us from most recently brewing across in Florida and is previously from Meantime down in London. So he and JT have been playing around with the kit today, exploring some of the functionality of that James Bond villain type control panel over there. And one of Matt's specialities is lagers, and brewing in Florida, one of the things he did was a Mexican lager. So Matt is going to be bringing his Mexican lager to you guys, and I'm just going to spring it on him here now. At some point, we might ask him to step on camera tonight.
I think so, yeah.
And maybe he can tell you a little bit more about that. How do you feel about that, Matt? Love to. There we go.
So
on the spot.
We've wanted to do a more dialed-in version of lager for quite a while, but our current site in the city centre hasn't enabled us to do that because the water profile is just not right for brewing lager. Whereas here, JT's been tweaking with the settings today and getting our reverse osmosis kit underway. That'll give us the base level of 0 to work from and build up to build an amazing lager. Pilsner, I can't wait till we brew a Pilsner here, and that's going to be hopefully a summer beer that everyone's just going to enjoy and really. I want to say responsibly drink it, but I have plenty of sessions on that. But
You've been way more responsible tonight than normal.
Than normal, I know.
Have you had to tell it off?
No, me. But yeah, we've never really explored lager too much at the current facility because we haven't had the capability to, but we have it here. And another big reason of doing a lager as one of the first brews is it's relatively cheap to make. So if it goes wrong, we don't need to worry about it. If we're dialing the kit in still, we've wasted grain. And grain, although it isn't cheap, it's the cheapest of the ingredients we use. Hops are very expensive. So once you've added hops and you've played around with that, if it goes wrong, it's a very expensive mistake. So we're going to dial it in with lager, and then we've got plenty of tank space at the moment. Fingers crossed it won't always be that way, and we'll keep the tanks very busy, but we've got plenty of tank space to give the lager the time it deserves. So lager, if you don't know.
Just to geek out a little bit about why water is so critical when it comes to lager. So the kind of defining thing about a lager is to have this very clean but minimal hop character coming through. And so for that to happen, what you need is a base water profile that has little to no mineral content, or you would feel the mineral content or the hardness of the water sitting above the hops.
Yeah.
So the Pilsner comes from an area of Germany called Pilsen, where naturally there is almost no mineral content in their water. And consequently they've been able to brew fantastic lagers in that area for hundreds of years.
I mean, the coolest thing for you guys is going forward with the RO stuff is that you're not just going to be brewing your beer anymore, you're going to be brewing your water first. So, and for as the guys explained, with reverse osmosis is we're taking water, stripping it back to just pure H2O and nothing else. And what that is going to give the guys here is a blank sheet of paper where they can literally write the recipe of the water. So they could look at any city in the world, they want to make a Munich lager, literally go to Munich, look up that municipal water report, rebuild that water from scratch, replicate it right here in the brewery, and knock out some absolutely amazing beers from it. So it's just like a whole new tool, isn't it? It's like a new ingredient, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a few classic examples. In the UK, the biggest brewing area is Burton-on-Trent, and that's got a very unusually high level of sulfates in its water. And sulfates are known for enhancing hop character and bitterness in beers. So all the kind of traditional English hoppy beers, English IPAs, for example, the best ones would have come from that area because of that water source. But as JT's highlighted there, that's kind of all irrelevant now because we have the ability to manipulate our water and create whatever profile we want.
And it's 98% of the product as well at the end of the day.
And a woefully ignored thing in many breweries.
Shamefully ignored.
Certainly on a homebrew scale.
Yeah. Well, we always used to say in the industry, I think everyone, going back a couple of years with brewing everyone used to say yeast was the afterthought. And then everybody got on top of their yeast game, and now I think water is the afterthought. People are slowly coming onto it.
I mean, out of interest to everyone at home, what style do you think suits our water profile based on what the beers you've tasted of ours? It might be obvious, but yeah, it's interesting to see what you guys think. So we saw a couple of funny ones, interesting ones. You guys will probably be pretty surprised about the fact that we want to make a lager, because it's not something that we've ever really talked much about, but like we said, it's the purity. And the other thing that I mentioned about the tanks, we can have more tank space here. So we are really going to lager the beer. So lagering means
to store.
Yeah. Store. Yeah.
So basically, we're going to put the first ever beer we brew in tank for 3 months, which is
that's
crazy.
Fantastic.
But we've got this, at the moment, we've got the space, the capacity, and if the lager is as good as we hope it'll be after 3 months, then we will invest in lager in tanks so that we can do that all the time and make sure that we always have our lager in tank for that amount of time. But yeah, it's a luxury that we've never had at the previous site, but we will have here from day one. So let's try it and see what we can do.
Okay. Nice. Next one we've got coming in is, do we have any plans for an alcohol-free beer?
We talked about it a bit, and to be fair, one of the big drivers for an alcohol-free beer was to launch it in time for January, when typically sales dip because everyone stops drinking for dry January. And we were talking about this towards the back end of last year, and then we were just so focused on what was happening with the restrictions on pubs that kind of became a back for, and we didn't give it enough time, and we thought when we get here then we can look at an alcohol-free.
But there's also we've always said if we're going to do something, we want to do it right.
Yeah.
And there are many ways in which you can go about producing the low alcohol ones, and they're going to result in varying qualities of beer. So the easiest way is you make a beer and then you heat it to eradicate the alcohol. But heat and beer, not so good bedfellows. It's not going to make a very good product. So that's the easiest and cheapest way you can do it. Now we've had some advancements in poor attenuating yeast that are not very good at creating alcohol, but will generate the flavours that you associate with a beer. So that's kind of come on, and if we were to undertake this task, I think that's the route we would have to go. But the really best way to make a low alcohol beer is to make the beer that you intended to make, and then spend about £100,000 on a membrane system that will allow you to remove the alcohol and retain everything else in the beer. So for the very big boys, your Heinekens, etc., they have that capability, but we haven't the money to invest in that for something that would become a small part of the portfolio.
And I think it boils down to the difference between craft breweries and bigger breweries too. Is like, just because we probably could get away with trying it doesn't mean we should. And I think it's exactly that. Like, if you don't have the means to execute it perfectly and get the right equipment to do it, maybe don't tread into the territory,
Why try and compete with someone who can do it miles better than you with minimal effort? But when you've got the capability to at least try, and you've got a means to do it, then
Although I'm sure we could beat some. I reckon we could do better than Beck's Blue, for example.
Oh yeah, I mean that's just water, isn't it?
So apologies for the delayed second beer. We got a bit geeky there and started going into a lot of detail, which we like to do when we order beer.
But it's only going to get worse the more these I have. I'm sorry. I apologise in advance.
And now I feel like I'm on Blue Peter. I'm like making these.
So while Lee's trying to build this next one, I'll tell you what the next one is. It's Black Forest Gose, BFG. So Black Forest Gose was our new head brewer Matt's prodigy's creation. He doesn't want to be associated with it because it's a different style to what he usually does. But no, it's a bit of a Marmite beer amongst the brewers. It's a really cool style, Gose, which is a salty beer, and then we've infused that with fruits of the forest flavours. So Lee's kindly given me this beer to talk to you guys about. I should probably pour myself.
I think in our rugby playing days when we'd have called this a hospital pass.
So like I said, it's a bit of a Marmite beer. We've got mixed feedback on it so far, but it's a really good example of how we're trying to push the boundaries and do things that are a little bit different and give the guys in the brewery a bit of a chance to give us some creative input.
Is the Black Forest element like a little Teutonic nod to the beer's kind of heritage, being obviously from Leipzig, the style?
I wish we thought it out that much, but let's pretend yes.
Yes,
fantastic.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. So what it came about is we do a competition amongst our brewers and ask them to put forward recipe ideas, and the best one idea that's put forward we pick out, and then we brew it on the big kit. On the small kit now, because this is the big kit, but Yeah, and it's and this was a combination of two of the ideas that were submitted. One of them was a triple fruited Gose, and one was a
Black Forest Stout. Yeah.
And Black Forest Stout would be amazing, but we kind of figured we do that quite a lot, fruited stouts. We wanted to do something a little bit out there. So we blended the two ideas and came up with this. So as we've mentioned, being a Gose, there's a fair bit of salt and coriander in there. And when I say fair bit, it'll make you want another drink. So drink more and more while you're going down it. So
I feel like the salt's enhancing the aroma alone.
there's a lot going on the aroma, especially the chocolate. You get a chocolate coming through in the aroma.
Massively.
And then it doesn't quite come through as much on the flavour, but you're getting quite a lot of fruits in there with a bit of a salty backbone. Did I mention salt at all?
I don't think anyone needs a reminder about the salt. But actually, drinking it as the second drink of the day, or actually third, fourth, whatever it might be, it's easier.
I think it's definitely like, I mean, when you're a little bit palate fatigued, it's not offensive in any way, even the saline side of it. Which is like what you get with any Gose, you know what I mean? But Gose is definitely not something you should have first thing in the morning, you know? It's you want to prepare yourself a little bit for it, but that's
we were concerned about this one, guys, and I think it will, there's that word again, Marmite, I think it will divide the crowd a little bit, but...
I'm a big fan. I tasted it from tank, and I was the one who was going back for more, thinking, well, and then the sample glass, normally when we're doing a tank tasting, it's a bit of a taste and then you pour it. I literally drank the whole taster, and that's unusual, and I think the like you said, salinity of it made me go back for more.
I think it works, to be honest. It brings out the savoury edge of it. I mean, it does kind of replicate the cakeish
snacks
edge
to go with it.
Yeah, definitely.
The bit that I guess for me,
like some salted peanuts.
It's not. For me, it doesn't taste like a Black Forest Gatto, and I think that's what, unfortunately, with the name that we went with on it, that's where I think it let it down a little bit.
It's more like
fruits of the forest, not Black Forest. The Black Forest is cherry. Fruits of the
forest. Like cherry sweet you might get in a box of chocolates. It's a bit more like that than a... Yeah.
But cherry sweet in a box of chocolates doesn't read as well as Black Forest Gatto.
It does not. You're right. So this is a traditional German style. So in Germany they have something called the Reinheitsgebot, which means that if we go all the way back, only allowed to brew with 3 ingredients. It was water, barley, and hops. Then they eventually realised it wasn't the magic stick that was creating the alcohol. There was this little bacteria, or fungi rather, called yeast that was creating the alcohol. So they then extended it to allow these 4 things. And the only exception to that is there are certain regional historic styles which are permitted to use other things. And one of them is this style, which is allowed to use wheat. And it's allowed to use salt and coriander in it.
So this is really good, and I'm glad you guys enjoying it. But yeah, there's lots of love for this on the feedback.
Good.
It's the our feedback for beer goes from when the tap rooms are open. It wasn't a pun, by the way. And we talk to people, and when we're in the tap rooms open, we get feedback instantly. Or for our beer festivals, we get feedback instantly. Whereas the only thing we can really do when we're in lockdown is look at Untapped, which we all hate, but it's a good yardstick.
Well, it's a love-hate relationship.
It's a very love-hate relationship.
If you're a bit of a beer geek, then usually you've got an understanding of stranger styles, more out there styles. And this is definitely a more out there style. And by the looks of it, you guys seem to like the more out there styles because we've got a lot of love for the salt.
So we used a new yeast that's relatively new to the market called Philly Sour. Is that one you've used before?
Haven't used it, no.
So it's a different kind of genus of yeast. So
it's a lactic producing one, is it?
Yeah, so it produces lactic acid, and then when it's got to a certain level of pH, it then switches into
whoever had me on the sweepstake.
A typical. This yeast is called. I've got it written up there, so I'm cheating here.
Yeah.
Lactansia, whereas cerevisiae would be the normal yeast. And I think it, unlike a kettle sour, which I think is slightly more rounded, slightly more complex, this type of sour, it's kind of a clean, crisp sourness. But we had an interesting time trying to brew with it this time of year.
Yeah.
Because with a normal fermentation, you add your yeast in, and it's going to generate some heat that's going to kick on the rest of the fermentation.
Winter's been against us.
So if it doesn't kick into that mode for maybe 3 days because it's producing this acid, then what we've had to do is to dinch the glycol out of the vessel and then send hot water around the jack to then get it up to a temperature where it will actually start fermenting. So I think the lesson to us is it's a great yeast, we love what it does. We either need to pitch it at a warmer temperature or we just need to wait for the summer months to use it.
What temperature did it kick off at?
Matt, what time did we get it, temperature did we get it going at?
The lactic production.
Yeah.
Well, lactic we probably went in about 18, 19.
Yeah.
But then I think it had dropped to about 13 and we'd had to give it a kick.
We gave it a quick cook.
Yeah.
Right, nice. See, it's really, so, like, I mean, I love my sours, and the last year we've been a bit limited on brewing them, but honestly, I was really skeptical about this yeast, because I'm a bit of a purist when it comes to sours, almost to a point of I'd rather chuck in a bag of wild grains and just see what happens. But this is, like, it's fantastic. It's done a really good job.
Yeah, we've brewed with it two or three times now, I think.
Philly Harmonic was the first.
Yeah.
We did a bit of, obviously, Pun Central, Philly Harmonic with
unlike
Sonic
us, I know.
43, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then this is the second time we've used it. It's not as straightforward as some of the other bacteria we've used.
No, I prefer the inoculation in the kettle. So we probably need to explain this.
We're going to have to, track back a little bit here. Like.
So, you'll hear beers referred to as kettle sours, and what a kettle sour is you're going to extract the sugary worts. So you're going to get the sugar, the colour, the flavour out of your barley, and you're going to move it across into your kettle here. You're then going to boil it in your kettle, and in doing so you're eradicating any kind of natural bacteria, any contaminant. Then you're going to cool it down to kind of body temperature, about sort of 38 degrees C.
And deliberately infect it.
And then you're going to deliberately infect it with something called lactobacillus. That is the bacteria that lives in your gut. It's the bacteria you're going to find in yogurt. It's what makes yogurts have that lovely sourness. And then over a period of 16 to 48 hours, it's going to eat a little bit of the sugar in there, and it's going to create lactic acid and create a beautiful kind of clean, crisp tartness. At that point, when you're happy with the pH, you're happy with the kind of tartness of the beer, you're going to boil it again to kill off that bacteria. And then you're going to move it through the system, ferment it, add a different type of yeast, and do what you would normally. What we tend to do is introduce some fruits and other things in there because we just like to be as far out there as we can possibly be. And I love those. I think they're a little bit more complex in character than these things, but I like the kind of cleanness that you get with this particular type of yeast.
But like any advancement, like this is like a whole new, for people, there's going to probably be a lot of breweries who didn't have the facility to kettle sour or do it well, can now actually open their doors to making really cool sour beers. So
Yeah.
It's one of the really cool features our kit's got behind Lee's head. There's a blue section in the chimney of the kettle. That's a valve, and we've closed it because we want to use this as a radiator. But if you leave that open, the steam vents up through the roof, and which is what it's supposed to do. But when you're souring a beer in the kettle, you don't want anything going in or out of that kettle while it's souring overnight. So we've got these valves in place on both kettles, so we can seal it and we can sour correctly in them, which is a great little feature.
I mean, if we're going to really geek out, which I suspect we're going to do a lot today, it's because it's an anaerobically fermenting bacteria. So oxygen bad, you need to give it an enclosed environment like this where
we just don't want any oxygen getting in there, and we don't want anything. More importantly, there's competing bacteria everywhere in the air. So if we're going to put a single bacteria and we want that to survive, we need to close it off from the rest of the environment. So by shutting up the chimney, nothing from the ceiling can fall in there from outside or anything, and it just lets the little lactobacillus go
those
nuts.
valves, do you know what those valves remind me of? It's like going to the National Railway Museum.
Yeah.
It's like you're taking it off the mallard or something.
They close like they're 100 years old too. They're really hard.
I like the fact that Sam's branded them blue as well. Sam from FabDeck. Before we move on to the next point, we've got to say a big happy 50th birthday to John Campbell. So John has joined us tonight.
Happy birthday, John.
50 years young, so happy birthday, cheers. And then apparently it's a thing, it's called the sweep steak, and the we emphasised.
I like what you've done there, guys. So I've got a question here. Do you think there's an ideal ABV range for sours, as I've had ones from 3.2 up to 10%? And that's from Alan.
I can wait.
Interesting. So when we do our pastry sours, so we've got a bit of vanilla and lactose in them. I think higher ABV works really well.
Yeah.
So like 6-7%. It's a really nice tasting beer, but it kind of, I don't know.
It's such a broad category. I don't think you could say that low is good or high is good. It depends on what you're trying to achieve with that particular beer.
Absolutely.
But one thing that is definitely evident with sours is they kind of hide the alcohol. You can get yourself in trouble drinking sours.
I think the crazy thing as well, they're so seasonal too. I mean, like, you're going to be nailing a 10% lactose, like, fruited sour in winter. But try drink that thing in summer, and you're not going to last 2 minutes. You want that 4%. Super light, crisp, crushable kind of.
In the heat.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you're going to be knocking them back too fast.
So joining us tonight is Northwest Beer Appreciation Society. So cheers, guys. Cheers,
guys.
The guys messaged us a few weeks back and asked if myself and Lee could join them for a bit of a tasting session. And this is all we can manage at the moment because of everything that's been going on. Our partners are already pulling our hair out for the fact that we spend no time at home at the moment. But we thought this was a great opportunity for you guys to join us on our live YouTube and we can interact a bit with you. So fire your messages in. We'll answer as many questions as you can. And thanks for joining us, guys. Cheers.
Cheers. Okay.
All right.
What have we got?
I've got one. Have you ever considered, I assume that's working elderflower into a beer?
Oh yeah, I love elderflower. We've talked about this a lot. It's just, we'd have to harvest, I guess,
I mean, a friend of ours, Tony Rogers, but we call him Tony Moon because it's Brewery's half moon. So I call him Tony Moon, Agents of the Stars. They have a brewery, and every year they do an elderflower beer, and I believe it involves them going out and foraging for about 2 days to do a 4-barrel batch.
Wow!
So imagine the amount of elderflower we would have
20
required
days
to do it. Yeah. So elderflower, you require a lot of it.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy thing to come by. So unless we were getting some sort of elderflower syrup and cheating a little bit, I don't think it works on this scale.
We'd love to though, and we might have to, like Lee says, find a cheaty way to use it. But it's an awesome.
Sometimes you can do a little half and half as well. You just get what is available to you, or responsible to get, and then just top it up.
Find complementary boosting flavours. So, question: how much science goes into the spidergram, which use measurements and which we taste, perception, Sally and Richard. So the spider graph on the back is sensory analysis from the brewers. So they basically taste the beer and tell us from their taste perceptions what the scoring should be. So it's based on them, which gives us consistency. So when you guys taste, if Lee did every single one, or if I did every single one, they'd be slightly different because our sensory palates are quite different. But the same people are doing the diagrams every single time. You get that consistency.
Yeah.
So if you see a beer of ours that has a 4-2-1-4, whatever the score is, and you like that flavour profile, you find another one of our beers with that same flavour profile, it should taste very similar.
Yeah, I might get the numbers on this completely wrong, but I believe when it comes to your tongue, there are 1,500 possible receptors, and we get 300 each. So everybody's got a different 300.
Absolutely.
So your perception of salty is different to my perception of salty. Like we're
Definitely different to Roddy's perception of salt. Cheers, Roddy.
What it also means is it's possible that there might be a particular character in a beer that you can taste but I can't.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's flavour thresholds too are, you get in more and more into sensory training and you pick a particular flavour and it just disappears for some people at a certain level, but it exists all the way down to almost zero for other people. And
there's so many really cool, interesting experiments that you can do with this, and this isn't geeking out. This is just really fun stuff that, like, when my niece and nephew come to visit, I like to show them in. We talk about it a lot. Holding your nose while tasting things, and then releasing it while you mix flavour makes a massive difference. This is where Lee normally talks about the onions.
Well, if you're being nasty to yourself, you can hold your nose and take a bite of an onion, and it's not overly offensive.
Yeah.
But the second you release your nose, then you're like, shit, why am I eating an onion?
Yeah, I think Lee does that because at the moment he eats fish every day in the office. So I think he holds his nose and eats the fish and enjoys it. And I walk in, I'm like, wow, that's a fishy office.
It's supposed to be quite healthy. Yeah,
it's really interesting actually on the spidergram thing. It's just like how much of it, obviously, you guys have your team of tasters and you're getting all the averages and the sensory information right, but I mean, how much of it could be quantifiable? The bitterness I mean, from just to answer the question for the guys, like the bitterness you could quantify and measure in a lab.
Yeah, so IBUs
And the sweetness, I suppose, technically with sugar, but probably wouldn't be
residual
representative
sugar,
of what we think is sweet.
But I think what and there's different ways you can go about it. So, is it bitter in the context of how bitter anything can possibly be?
Or does it have bitterness units in it?
Or is it bitter for the context of the style that you've tried to create there? Or is it bitter in the context of the beers that you produce?
Yeah.
So I think we've gone more down the line of, for what we produce,
absolutely.
If it's a number 4 out of 4, then that's our West Coast top end. We've totally tried to make that as bitter as we possibly can.
I've used this example on a previous tasting, but it's great that when one of our mates who drinks our beer quite a lot, like you would, but he's like, I like your beers that look like a pint glass on the back. So the flavour diagram looks like a pint glass, and so he looks at our cans, and if it's got one of them, then he'll buy it because he knows that's the style that he likes with the profile.
So that'll be a 3 on 1.
Yeah, so cool. Just pattern recognition, isn't it?
Exactly. And again, that's another one we fluked. That quite often we do hit that pint glass thing, but it's totally not an intentional thing.
Have you guys always done the spider diagram on your cans?
It came in with our rebrand, which is maybe 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
It's awesome, I think.
But yeah, it's one of those things where you look at it from the perspective of ourselves as beer geeks, what do we want to see on the can? But you look at it from the perspective of someone who doesn't really geek out about beer like we do, who just wants to know a little bit more information. And we try and tick both boxes where if you really want all the detail, we've got it there. If you really want to just know high level visually, I like bittersweet, then there we go. So go on then.
Did you try the BFG on a pilot kit? Is it hard to upscale the salt mark? The reason we're laughing is, no, we took a bit of a stab with that one. And our initial impression was we got it wrong and we went a little bit overboard with the salt. And it probably is a little too saline still, but having drunk it tonight,
I think it works.
I think it really works. I could maybe still go a little less salt, but I don't think we're as far off the mark as we perhaps thought we were.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I keep saying it, moorishness about a salty beer. You just want to, and I guess that's why people put salty snacks out in pubs, because
it's the oldest flavour enhancer, isn't it?
You basically go for it.
Yeah, we've got another beer coming out soon, all because is that in the next box?
It was launched yesterday, and it's in next month's box. So we've been super organised for since about a month ago. We've actually got a release calendar. We're not going to release it to you guys until probably another week or so until we've fine-tuned it. We've got a release calendar, and we're going to have to do it quarter by quarter because we're releasing so many beers. But in doing so, we're going to give you guys a bit more visibility of what's going to come up in your box. And you guys have told us that you want in the subs box, you want all the new release beers. It's really hard to do that because we've got to balance the cost of the box versus the beers we're bringing out. But as much as possible, we're doing that, and hopefully you appreciate it from this month's box. Getting a 14% and a 12% beer in there in a 37 quid box is pretty cool.
But the reason I mentioned that particular beer at that point in time is because it's a beer that Matt's developed alongside one of our other brewers, Alistair, and it's a chocolate and cherry chili stout. So the chili in there does give it a certain amount of heat, but it's more about the flavour. But what heat there is in there, in the much the same way that this salt is making you go back in for that next sip, that's what that heat does. So it's kind of an ever vicious circle with that. So, that's quite hot. Let's have and it really works. I really like chili and spicing in certain stouts. But anyway, that's next box. You need to tune in next time.
So we're going to go on to the next beer in the next 2 or 3 minutes, maybe a little bit more than that. If you haven't got it out of the fridge, then why didn't you listen to me earlier? Get it out of the fridge, come on. Because I am also wondering why our guys didn't listen to me and put it on the hot liquor tank to warm up.
So we're going to be having cold that beer.
But anyway, yeah, we've also got
That's an
a few
essay.
questions to answer.
Right, this is also from Mark, I'm assuming the same Mark. Are you planning a collab special box 1 month featuring only collab beers? Or how about a... What do you think that one says?
Faves.
Favourites box where subscribers can suggest a note on some of that we'd like to... I think we got the general idea. So a collab box, only collabs, or a beer containing things that all of you guys consider to be favourites.
So the difficulty is that at the current site, I keep saying current, this is the current site now, our site in the city centre, 10 barrel kit, we brew a batch of beer and we sell it relatively quickly, so we don't have a lot of it sat around. So for you to say, I love that beer, we couldn't brew the beers, can the beers and get them into one box in time unless we sat on them for months, in which case it's not good for the beer. So we don't want you guys to get old beer, we want fresh beer. So the faves idea is really cool, and we'll try and incorporate some of that where we get maybe 2 or 3 of the faves in there.
I think that might be more, we have to plan further and further ahead to be able to accommodate all of this kind of stuff. So when we looked at this year's brewing calendar, we looked back at all the things that you guys said you loved last year. So we've got lots of things coming back this year. So perhaps when we get nearer the end of the year and we're talking about what the subscription boxes might look like next year, you can suggest the beers that you want to see.
I'd imagine, guys, you want to keep them fresh too. You know, if you brew one in January, you don't want to hang on to it till August to release it with the favourites. You want to enjoy it at its best.
Unless it's some sort of Bowler's.
Yeah, exactly. In which case, all the better.
Certain styles work better in certain seasons. So you don't want to be. We don't want to be doing a load of stouts in the summer box and then all the sours and fresh IPAs in the winter box. You want to get it the right balance. Where, don't get me wrong, I'll drink any style any time of the year, but you know what I mean. You always have a preference. Cask stouts this time of the year, we are so missing out for the lockdown. It's so frustrating to not be able to go into a pub, buy a fire and drink a nice cask stout beer.
Oh yeah, stout or anything from a cask in any bar right now would be good.
It's a distant dream.
I don't even need the fire, just plug me in the bar, that's fine.
Just set me in front of a
hot
liquor tank.
Blue Peter time again, is it? Right.
So, what?
Yeah, imagine the more entertained than I am by it, but yeah, thanks guys.
Should we do a question? I got one here.
Yeah, so we've got a cool one here from Sam Barnard. A question for later. When does a milk stout become a breakfast milk stout? Enjoying the box after much chaos switching over. Cheers. Sorry about the chaos. Breakfast milk stout. Sorry, a milk stout versus a breakfast milk stout. If you drink it at breakfast time, then it's breakfast.
Yeah.
It's not. No, breakfast stout
I like that logic.
is typically a stout which contains coffee. So it's the breakfast bit comes from the coffee element. And I guess in England we don't drink as much coffee as you do in the States. But yeah, so we should maybe have an Earl Grey tea stout for the UK. But
what if you incorporate like Cheerios into it or something? You know, I'm just thinking that breakfast cereal and the mash one, really go for it.
You know someone's done that.
Oh, it happens all the time. Like.
It'll be allergic, probably.
Yeah.
Oh yes, so waste cereal, yeah. So they did something with Kellogg's, I think it was, and basically incorporated 4 different breakfast cereals and used it in their mash tun to make 4 different beers. So a really cool concept, and it avoids food waste. So.
Well, if you want to hear about something weird that you might put in one of these vessels, you need to wait on until later when myself and Wayne will be giving you a little hint as to what we might be doing for our birthday beers.
It's not that weird, but we'll put something weird in the vessel.
The quantity we're going to use it in is quite spectacular, but anyway.
So on to the third beer of the evening, so we might as well step it up. It's gone 8 o'clock, it's time for a 12% Biscotti pastry stout, I guess. So John Biscotti, King of Brew York, one of the big pun beers we did about 18 months ago, was it now? John Biscotti?
First time out, it'd be about that, yeah.
And yeah, the first time we brewed it, I wasn't quite familiar with the pun. So the King of New York was...
Well, how I first came to know John Gotti, King of New York, was down to the Fun-Loving Criminals. If anyone remembers the song...
Sing it.
I was almost going to that, but nobody...
If you remember, he's on camera, so he stopped.
But literally, they just repeat John Gotti, King of New York, John Gotti, King of... They just repeat that lyric throughout the song. And for about 5 minutes in the 90s, the Fun-Loving Criminals were quite big, with Scooby Snacks and other such songs.
So just a quick one, Nick Collins, ping Josh an email on store@brewyork.co.uk. He loves these messages, so he'll sort you out. So we got another funny one as well about did they just see a naked sooty passing the drinks across a minute ago?
Yes, we call him Josh.
So John Biscotti, King of Brew York. It's actually Lee's beer to talk about, so I was about to start talking, but
And I was expecting you to as well.
but Lee hasn't spoke much recently, so we'll let him talk.
We've changed the order this time round. Usually Wayne would do the first beer, I'd do the second, he'd do the third. But I gave him a hospital pass with the second beer.
Which we all enjoyed. So.
Yeah, so this is a pastry stout, and what you're going to add to a pastry stout is things like maltodextrin, which is the kind of unfermentable sugar that you're going to make candy floss with. And you're going to add lots of lactose, which is the milk sugar, which is also unfermentable and creamy and adds a certain thickness to the beer. So we're going to add that to it. On our old system, to get up to a strength of this, we would have to supplement it with additional sugars. So we would use a simple sugar like dextrose, totally fermentable, and we would use a brown sugar, which again is partly fermentable and partly not fermentable. And the bit that isn't fermentable gives a nice kind of molasses type character into the beer. And then we've also used a malt extract, which is basically a liquid version of what you would get from the malt. So just basically lots of different ways to chuck sugar at the beer to make the big beer. And we've used 7 different types of malt on top of that for complexity, including one of my favourites, which is Special B.
Nice. I've got 2 quotes I've got to say. So from Bill 702260, holy fuck, this one is good. And then and
the second F-bomb of the night goes to Bill. Is it Bill?
And then the other one from Mike Curry, whoa, this is like being slapped in the face by a really massive fucking almond.
Fucking hell.
So it's biscotti. We got the almond flavour in there. It's one of my favourite beers we do. It's so complex. When we brought it out the first time, I was blown away by all the different flavours that came through. I thought this was going to get a bit murky and we were going to maybe lose it a little bit. But there's so much going on, but you still get it.
Orange big this time.
So we get
sorry
orange.
guys, I prefer the original version. The orange was bigger, but
yeah, live reaction. So I had a can of this last weekend on my big Friday night. I had a can of this, a can of barrel aged Empress,
a Mocha Man,
and something. That was teeing me up for tonight. But there's so many flavours going on in this beer, and this would have normally been a headliner in our box, 12%. Biscotti stout, but we've got something else to go on.
If this isn't the headliner, the headliner is really big. That's fantastic, really.
It's cool, isn't it? There's so much complex flavours going on in that beer, and we've got a really which barrel is it in? We've got some of this barrel aging from 18 months ago when we brewed it, and I cannot wait to try that.
The other thing as well is I
think we have this in a port pipe.
Yes, it is, isn't it? It's a port pipe. So
a 500 litre port pipe. We have this one in.
This pour is so thick as well. When you actually let it, it's like pouring a glass of engine oil, and like not new engine oil. I mean old engine oil.
And we've got it a lot colder than we'd normally drink it. So we're drinking it. I don't know.
You might have noticed JT and Wayne both keep sitting like this.
What I really want to do is
I was trying to think about how I could tactically do it earlier.
Sit on top. Sit on top. There you go. Your glass all go warmer at the same time. But it's hopefully you guys at home have got it a little bit warmer than we have, because the warmer it gets, a dark beer in particular, you're getting lots of different flavours coming through. We use 7 different malts in this, and the warmer the beer is, the more of those malts you taste. So it's
for those of you that are joining us for the first or relatively recent times, the reason that temperature is important for your perception of flavour is that 80% of your perception of flavour is nasal. And temperature is a suppressant to aroma. So I always say at this point, so when certain macro breweries are telling you they've got this triple cold filtered and super chilled this and that,
so hide all the balls.
What they're trying to do is to make you perceive the minimal amount of flavour from it possible. It is entirely marketing. It is not a good product.
When was the last time you seen a macro beer ad about the beer? It's just someone dancing on a beach or something. That's it. It's got nothing to do with flavour.
Dancing around instead of actually talking about what goes in. It's like, I was going to do that because Lee's been wanting to get on TikTok, so I thought we'd do a little TikTok video across here tonight, but it's not really worth it.
The other thing as
I'm a
well,
bit old for TikTok actually, but
Apparently
what I
not.
know about it.
So we've got some.
So
some
now
quick-
who doesn't get my horror film references is too old for TikTok.
A lot of people saying stuff like marzipan. This is great. I love it.
Definitely
Can we have the
marzipan.
barrel aged one?
Oh, do
Like
you know
an
what?
amaretto and Coke without the Coke.
Do you know what the marzipan is? We did forget to mention one ingredient. Unusual for us, I know. We did add a little bit of tonka.
Yeah, we were for a change.
there's actually just an incredible amount happening in the beer. It's like you actually do get the orange peel under there as well, which is really nice. It's just like a different dimension on top of
The
everything
guys,
else.
the guys made us buy some special peelers, didn't they? Those like auto winder peelers where you put the orange in and it literally turns.
And it worked for about 5 minutes.
Yeah,
because they-
it's like all brewery Amazon purchases, like you know, like,
It's like when you're missing the tips of your fingers because the zester you've been using has just grated your fingertips off. Obviously, that never goes in the beer.
yeah, I was like, "Bah, dig up, Wayne, dig up. Like,
And you've got to ditch that whole batch of zest that you've just done. But so finding auto peelers, the guys are like, I've got this and it's gonna peel this orange. I'm looking like that's gonna last 5 minutes. It's so import from China that's
He goes,
never been tested.
"Duh."
Oh god, yeah.
Brilliant.
It does. I'm not going to go into the story of when I took my fingertip off when I was a child. Well, I've already gone there now. So.
you can't dangle that
So do
around.
you remember
here.
the Mr. Frosty machines
Yes.
where you used to turn the ice cube and the little
You make your own
shredding
slushies,
thing?
yeah.
So my parents had an adult version where you basically make ice cocktails, and I just got my thumb and started turning the ice. Oh, there's the top of my thumb, just
nice.
chopped off through the ice machine. Thankfully, it wasn't too bad. It was just like literally the tip of my thumb. But yeah, I didn't want to drink that Bloody Mary cocktail I made. At
Literal
10
Bloody
years
Mary.
old or whatever I was. But yeah.
I think we need to move on from that fairly quickly.
Yeah,
Don't worry,
definitely.
they don't
I
let me
pace
near
it.
production anymore.
Yeah, we need. Right, thank you, Anne. Lifesaver, another question. Any plans for any stouts to appear in supermarkets? And that's from Ben. I mean, never say never, Ben. It's probably an unusual one for us in that the thing we're most known for is probably stouts. So like when Wayne was saying earlier, what kind of beers do you think our water might be most suitable for?
Yeah.
It's dark beers because we've got very alkaline water and that's what that suits. So yeah, at the minute, the best beers that we make are undoubtedly our stouts. But besides you guys all having that perception and all probably agreeing that our stouts are our best beers, the things that we've been approached about by the supermarkets to date has never been our stouts.
No, and the thing is, stouts aren't big sellers normally. So normally you put a pale beer alongside a dark beer. The pale beer sells 3 or 4 times to every can of the dark beer or pint or whatever measure it is. I just told Leah an interesting stat earlier. We launched 2 beers this week. We had All Because, which is our chili chocolate stout, and then we had
Mashed
Bandicoot, our pale. Our chili chocolate stout outsold our pale by 3 or 4 to 1. So our
Defies
stouts,
all logic.
Yeah.
It really does.
So we bring out a stout and we'll sell, which I guess is partly because of the people like our stouts, I guess. But yeah, for me, I'm like looking at it from a financial perspective, thinking, yeah, the pale's going to sell really quickly. Nah, Brew with 14% imperial stout during lockdown, yeah, that'll sell.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, go figure.
So I had a couple of cool ones there I wanted to shout out. Flannel tops, love the Brew York flannel tops, Wayne. Any merch like that coming out on the web store? So that's from Matt Barker. I've got 3 of them. I've got a blue, green, and a red one. If you want to buy one of mine off me, I'll buy a new one. No, we haven't put any on the web store because they're all. These ones are just custom embroidered for us, but
I think for most people, yours would be a dressing gown or a tent.
might be a
wouldn't it?
tent, yeah. So, but yeah, we definitely consider putting them on there. We've had a few shouts about them recently. They're very warm, which is why I keep wearing them.
And if you want a Slipknot one like this, emc.co.uk.
So from Mike Pearson, you might know him from.
Jules, man.
Well, also from the Market Tap. So, question for Lee: you 3 look like a beer geek old boy band on those stools. What song are you going to sing after the Mocha Man?
I mean, we'd have to do the boy band dancing, right? You know, kind of coordinated, like a few twirls in there.
At least that wasn't why we started late, because we weren't practicing.
Whenever we sit on stools like this, I just remember, who did the Bee Gees cover? Was it Westlife or Boyzone or something like that?
Who knows?
He pretended he doesn't know, he knows.
It was one of them.
He's one of them, yeah. Antsy, he knows. He's
you
into
go.
metal like me, and he knows.
So another question
I
from
think we should both be embarrassed at that point, though, aren't we?
from Melissa Reed, who we haven't seen in a long time now, so I hope you Alan are doing well. Hopefully we'll get to see you in our bars at some point soon. So when you start doing mixed firm at the city centre, are you going to be aging some to blend with the fresh beer, or is that a step too far?
No, absolutely, that's the intention. It may not happen from day one. So we aim to have what you would call a Solera, which is something like a stock ale that you would make, and you just keep it in large volume. And I'm trying to think, what's like a sourdough thing where you take a bit out,
Keep the culture going.
You keep it going, you add a bit in. So for every bit you take out, you add a bit more, and over time it gets better and better and better and better. And kimchi, I think, is done the same way, that kind of thing.
It'll be like any barrel kind of program. You'll be maybe get 5 barrels. You'll get one that's outstanding. Get rid of 4. Split the one that's outstanding amongst the other 5, and keep that inoculation spreading. And
Yeah.
but,
So we're really, really excited and optimistic by what doing that in the city centre now.
it'll be
offers.
amazing, mate.
Nice.
So I got one from Tombo Jumbo, unrelated to what's happened now, but what's happening for Gallagher. I remember you saying it was be discontinued, but I haven't heard anything about it since. So that's a great question. So Gallagher was our core APA. We love the beer and we wanted to continue selling it, but we export to Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, and the Japanese importer said to us, "You do know that Gallagher's trademarked brand name in Japan?" And we're like, looked into it's also trademarked in the UK by Namco. And we're like, yeah. And they basically brought out a 30th anniversary special, and we're like, yeah.
So at the point at which we brewed
We
the beer,
preempted a cease and desist.
Yeah, so we did the artwork, we did the beer, we did the artwork. It was an 8-bit game from the 1980s that nobody had seen for 30 years or 40 years. And then for some reason Namco then re-released an 8-bit game on the PS4. And then all of a sudden we're in copyright contravention.
So we didn't get any formal cease and desist, but you don't want to muck about
We've
with
been
these.
burned too many times before.
We stopped brewing it, and in 2 weeks' time we're bringing out a brand new core APA, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it later on.
Well, actually now is probably a good point to do that, because it is kind of the natural successor to Gallagher in our range, in that it's a similar ABV, it's a similar style, recipe's a little bit different. But the reason I'm mentioning it now is because usually around this time we tell you about what's coming in the subscription next time round. So as always, it's going to be 4 beers, and the first of the 4 beers that you will be having next time round.
There's going to be 9 beers in the subscription. It's going to be 4 on the taster.
Oh, did I get it wrong?
You said it's going to be 4 in the subscription. There'll be plenty.
Not looking like such good value at this point in time.
But this is going to be an awesome. You think this month's box was good? Next month's box is going to be really good.
The name is going to be Lupu Lion. Right, let's see if JT gets the reference. Why might we have called it Lupu Lion?
Lupu Lion, I mean, it's a hop reference?
Yes, there we go. Yeah.
Thank you.
So it can't go for that.
I
was a bit worried then.
I thought there was something deeper in there.
Yeah.
No. That's lupulin is the yellow substance inside a hop that contains all the good bits, the bitterness, the aroma, the flavour. So we've created a beer called Lupu Lion, which has got a cool lion on the branding in our usual kind of character style.
So yeah,
we think it's one of our best branding releases recently.
So basically, we've always had the eagle. So the eagle's been prominent in our beers and our branding from day one. The lion has always been on the main logo, and we wanted to bring a beer out that had the lion in. We've just never had a chance today. So we haven't been asked this for a long time, I guess, because we haven't had customers coming in or venues, but people used to ask us all the time what our logo is about. So probably can't. I'm looking at Ant's logo behind the camera. You probably can't see it from my small logo on my top. But the logo is 2 lions, 2 eagles. Our brewery name's called Brew York. That isn't just a coincidence. It sounds like New York. It's a pun on New York. So a lot of the beers that we were massively influenced by when we set the brewery up were American beers. and we wanted to have a UK and American influenced name. So Brew York came about from that, and then we basically looked at what was good from both those cities. So on the York City crest is lions, on the New York City crest is eagles. In the English national animal is a lion, and the American national animal is an eagle. So there's a really nice overlap there. And the guys at United by Design, hopefully watching us, Owen, came up with this awesome logo for us, which was a penguin and a dog. And we tweaked it to make it an eagle and a lion, which was what we were going for.
So now I said hello, Owen. Now I have to say apologies, Owen.
Yeah.
So yeah, the initial iteration needed a little refinement. There could have been some confusion with dogs and penguins, but
we got there, and we love the logo, and we always brought out the eagle represented our IPA. So we had the little eagle, big eagle. We brought out black eagle. What else have we done?
Blood eagle.
So we had Hast eagle. So we had lots of eagle named beers, and then at one point a long time ago we did an experimental beer called Lionheart, and that was the only ever nod to the lion that we ever did. So when we decided that Gallagher had to be replaced by something else, we thought it's about time we brought the lion back and put it into prominence, because we hope this beer is going to be the main beer that you guys will see when you'll drink in our tap room every time you see it, because it's our 5% APA, American Pale Ale. So Lupul Lion was the name we came up with at the end.
So, and I love this next bit. So we go from one beer that replaced another beer that was in copyright trouble because of a computer game reference. So the second beer in your pack next month is going to be Mash Bandicoot. so possibly
could attract some attention.
The 25th anniversary, 25th anniversary of the amazing platform game Crash Bandicoot, which we have not.
And if anyone was confused about the infringement,
I've never heard of it. I've never heard of it.
So a couple of cool beers, and then the third on the YouTube live tasting is Abraham Lingham.
So that's a lingonberry and grapefruit and lime and ginger sour.
Lingham, grapefruit, lime, and ginger.
Yeah, well,
we do some weird shit.
Don't do these things in
complex. I love it.
Abraham Lincoln's a good name, and the branding's great. What we originally wanted to call it was Inspector Norse.
And we thought Inspector Norse was really cool, but someone else that we brewed with recently actually had a beer called that.
Yeah, Flying Coucho in Denmark have already bagged that one, so we couldn't do that, unfortunately.
And then the fourth in the tasting is going to be Dradis. So Dradis is a completely out there beer for us. It's an imperial stout with no additions. There's no lactose. There's no fruit. There's no
10 different types of malts.
Coconut.
No
lactose.
No.
Just
super complex
pure
imperial
Russian
stout.
imperial stout.
Wow. So I'm pretty excited about this because it's going to be pretty cool. So that's the tasting lineup. But in the extra beers in the pack, there's 5 more, and one of them just happens to be Smart on Cocoa. So the beer that we sold out of within a couple of hours of being online, we saved some for you guys if you got a subs box. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Someone asked earlier, are we going to brew it again? Yeah, 100%. It was a much smaller batch than we were anticipating. It sold out really quickly, so we'll brew it on this kit and we'll have plenty of it to go around. So if anyone doesn't know what Small Ton Cocoa is, it's Ton Cocoa with marshmallow. That's the easiest way to describe it.
And the initial version's gone down so well. Exclusive for you guys. We're going to do an imperial version of it at some point in the year. We don't know when yet.
Yeah.
And quite naturally, it has to be called even small Ton Cocoa.
So they're going to be around 7.5%. Like Imperial Ton Cocoa is a 7.5% of Ton Cocoa.
It writes itself. Come on. You can't deny it.
And then we've got
Jesus.
We've got a lot of new beers coming out over the next few weeks, and they'll be in the pack as well. So we'll give you more details of it. But next month's pack, we looked at it and we were struggling to work out which 4 beers to do on the tasting because every single beer seemed to be a new release. So it's pretty cool.
Can I interject with a quick question?
Yeah, go for it.
Just because I need to benchmark myself here. How many new beers are you going to do this year? Because
about 52, we think.
That's fantastic.
So
just for anybody watching back there, that is an astonishing amount of new beers.
So you've just said new beers. What he didn't say is, in addition to our core range, how many is our core range now? 9. So we've got 9 core beers. We're going to bring 104 extra beers out. So
That's incredible, guys.
pretty much 2 per week for the whole year, as in 52 brand new beers, 52 returning favourites. So, and we would never ever have been able to do that, not just for this kit, but because we ended up in the position we were with COVID, where we had to come up with ways of keeping people interested and
entertained.
Yeah. And we got to do the creative stuff that we always wanted to do when we set the brewery up. Instead of having to brew batch after batch after the same 4% pale ale that everyone wants to buy, we got to brew a 10 barrel batch, or 10 barrels is 1643 litres, something daft like that. So a small batch of really wacky out there beers, and then we actually we can brew a second batch of that this week, and we can keep doing those small weird wacky batches because we've still got our core beers ticking over.
We've always been pretty prolific, and for us, those of us that do the brewing and the recipe development, it's what keeps you interested.
Absolutely.
None of us get in this game to come in and knock out what we're doing today.
The same lager.
We're doing the 4% pale again. Yay! Yeah, nobody gets in this game to do that. They get in this game to
push the boat out.
Yeah, push the boat out, constantly do something different. What we're doing today? Well, we're doing that thing we've not done before. Why? Because
we can.
Why the hell wouldn't we?
Because we like to talk to you guys about beer. We really want to do this in person. We want to have some beer festivals where we've got 14 different beers on at the one festival. You guys can come and talk to us in person and find out more about that specific beer.
Thanks, Alan.
And taste it alongside us.
So that one.
Or come to our tap room and do exactly the same. We have so many beer lines in our tap room, and we're hopefully going to have something similar at this site at some point where you can come and try them alongside us. But
sweepstake is me. If you had JT on the sweepstake, you've got some sort of prescience going on because.
I can't believe.
I'm just built different, okay?
Yeah, there's definitely.
I didn't choose this.
There's definitely a different build between me and Lee and you, but I'm sure that it's not to do with the bladders.
I'm significantly shorter.
Maybe that helps. So there's I've missed a lot of questions there. Sorry, guys.
I've got, and I promise I'm not making these up because they are Drop Project centric.
Well, let's start with this one then. Any exciting collabs coming up? Well, actually, we're happy to be doing a collab with Drop Project very soon.
I also have one here. Favorite collab beer you've ever done, but obviously that's Drop
about
Project
to come.
collab,
Yeah, we haven't done it yet. It's about to come soon.
Now we do have one of it. What is Drop Project's signature brew from Alan? Well, Alan, that is our only core beer, which is Shifty.
Which is the one we were drinking earlier. Which is the one we had earlier,
which is actually our first beer we ever our first beer we ever brewed. And yeah, we just kind of kept making it. It was decent, so it stayed with us. Will Drop Project ever be brewing a Tipper, Gareth? Well, Gareth, considering we have a new brewery going in South London with an enormous mash tun, just like the one sitting next to me, I would say 100%, 1,000 times yes. Yeah. We will definitely be brewing a Tipper. So
we normally get the how do we get hold of their beers? So.
If anybody out there is interested in it's drop-project.co.uk. We have a web shop available. We ship every Thursday. We ship nationwide, and we do free local delivery as well. So that's my shameless little plug out of the way.
No, 100%. And what we'll probably do is as soon as we brewed our beer together, we'll get a load of hopefully Drop Project's beers up into our web shop as well, so you guys can get it at the same time as our beers. So it's going to be awesome. You're going to be able to.
All being well, bars will be open. We could do a little bit of a tap takeover thing in one of the bars.
I think we'd have to invite you down to our new place as well.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, you guys are going to get a bar, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely.
So this is where we've so missed it. It's been a year since we've been able to actually get out of York and go and visit other people, and we're so fortunate. We're sat here today working, doing a tasting of our beers, which is a privilege because it's almost like we're in the pub. We're sat with friends, drinking beer, talking about beer, but we're in an industrial estate in the middle of nowhere. so the sooner we can get back into our tap room doing exactly the same thing, but interacting with you guys as well, it's going to be awesome. So hopefully we get some good news from the government in the next week or two.
Well, week on Monday, supposedly we get the roadmap, don't we?
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So on the back of that, it's probably time for me to take my second visit.
Right. I forgot to put mine on. This is
Wait, I was looking at your etiquette there. Now you masked up before. It's complete within the guidelines.
how do you decide which beer to replace when you alter the core range, sales or had enough of brewing it? And that's from Alan. So it's certainly not sales. I suppose it's elements of both. So there are things that we've dropped from the core range in the past. So I think of Little Eagle. We dropped it. It was our best-selling beer at the time. We dropped it because it had sriracha Jason and I couldn't stand it. And we didn't think it, and it was a non-dry hop beer. Right. So I didn't think it particularly represented what we were trying to be as a brewery. You can't have a name like Brew York, like New York, and claim to be doing the American-style beers and have a non-dry hop beer, because that's a very English kind of thing to do. So that beer had to go, even though it was the bestseller. And we killed off the second bestseller after that. We killed off Brew York, because that was part of our initial core range, and we brewed it with the best hops that we could get at the time, which were things like Summit and Brewer's Gold. And
we've all been there.
We couldn't get Citra, we couldn't get Mosaic, we couldn't even get Centennial. So we did the best
Couldn't get Citra
with what we could at the time. So we killed off the bestseller a few times, and some of them had, like Brew York, had really cool branding, but unfortunately it had to go. And yes, there are occasions where sales have driven changes to the core range. So Big Eagle, which is our West Coast IPA that we now get a lot of love for and we've won a lot of awards for, that was one of our original core range beers, and we had to drop it because, it's funny this, not many people wanted to drink 6.5% cask beer.
No, never. That
I know.
It's crazy. The other big things, we got a pretty, I'd say lucky break, but it was hard work. You don't get such thing as luck. But no, it was in our early first 6 months, we did brewery tours for the beer buyers of Asda and Tesco. So we managed to get a listing in Asda and Tesco in our first 6 months for, and the only beers we had at the time were core. And it worked out pretty well because it gave us the confidence to buy extra tanks to help us grow. But what it did do is meant that independents didn't then want to buy those beers. So we thought, well, those beers are in the supermarkets. Well, we won't really sell them much to independents anymore. So let's focus on the new and special. So we did that. And the original cores didn't sell that many, so apart from the supermarkets. So let's eventually drop them and only brew them for supermarkets. So when we stopped selling to the supermarkets because we couldn't keep up with the demand for independents, then those beers kind of died off. And then we missed them because Big Eagle was West Coast IPA, and who doesn't love a West Coast IPA? Apparently the public didn't, but we loved them as brewers. We all drank West Coast IPAs till we were sick of them. But.
Yeah, in fact, what beer got you into craft beer? Because for us it was probably Sierra Nevada, Jaipur, like the West Coast kind of bitterness leading thing.
Bizarrely, I think, I mean, when I really got into craft beer, I was drinking, I was living in Australia, and a friend of mine handed me a Feral Hop Hog.
Oh, Feral, yes.
Yeah.
I got my Feral t-shirt as well.
I didn't really know what was happening to my nostrils, and that kind of just ignited something. And then I remember when I got back to, the UK side, back to Ireland, Brewdog Punk IPA was really just coming out, and I kind of rediscovered that feral hit, and I started chasing it. But those would be kind of the two that got me into it. But the beer that got me into brewing was actually Gose Marriage Parfait, because that completely blew my noggin of what a beer could be, really? And that's when I just said I want to be a brewer. So yeah, that's it. Those are my three big ones into beer.
So
that's a big leap to that one.
Yeah, I was handed it in a homebrew.
So a couple of years before we started Brew York, I went to Perth for a couple of weeks in Australia, and basically spent the whole 2 weeks in Fremantle at Little Creatures Tap Room.
Oh God, yeah, love that place. Absolutely love that place.
And Feral, because they have like a warthog on the brand.
That's right. Yeah.
So basically, went into what's it called, Margaret's River? Is it called? I can't remember.
Margaret River.
Where the wine.
Yeah.
And then went to doing all the brewery tours. And Feral just blew my mind because all the others were press repeat. It was literally we do a pale, we do a wheat, we do a lager, and it was so boring.
Feral was so out there. It was completely offensive.
And it was just like, yeah, oh my god, you guys like are out there. You're doing all these, and I was talking to the guys in the tap room. I was like, this is just amazing. And I've still got my Feral T-shirt at home. It's brilliant. I was just like, these guys are doing something so different. And Little Creatures, it was before they were bought by Lion. Which doesn't really matter. It didn't change much.
I don't think I even knew that.
But Little Creatures had their IPA, and it wasn't available in the UK. It was only available in Australia.
That's right.
And it was so good. It was just a bitter West Coast resinous
drunk it.
IPA.
Did you try
Little Creatures Bright beer?
Yes,
That was absolutely fantastic.
Honestly,
and it was like kind of an unrefined version of the pale, if you like. So it was like a non-yeastery dose, and it was they described it as the brewer's beer, like out of the tank, and that beer blew my mind as well. I love that.
What was cool for me was when we came back to the UK.
Did Fuller's do a London Pride version like that?
It was like, their tap room is immense. It's basically big industrial building where families come every day, weekend, and they love it. So we need that in York. There's nothing like that in the UK. There's cool tap rooms, but no one wants to come as a family and spend their time there. And we go into our beer hall now on a Sunday, and you've got kids running around, families enjoying themselves, having Sunday lunch, having a beer, and it's like, yeah, we don't have a beach and an amazing space, but we have a river and we have families enjoying it, and that's kind of what we set up.
From what you told me about Little Creatures, are people able to like just rock up in their boats to?
That's right.
Outside, and then
what's really quite cool as well about Creatures, a fun fact, they actually have their own little customs like port in there, because they were bringing so many hops. They actually had their own quarantine zone at one point, which I thought was just so cool. Right? Like, that's adapt and overcome, you know. You need the hops fresh, you need them quick.
And then you add it to Brewery.
They did, that's how I learned about it.
Exactly. Right. You mentioned previously how surprised you were that Rhubarb Streisand, which is our rhubarb and milkshake pale, did well compared to another release at the time. Has there ever been a beer that you had high hopes for, but the sales didn't do it justice? Alan Humphreys. So pretty much anything dark that we put hops in, I would say.
Yeah.
I love New Zealand brown ales, US brown ales, India stouts. I think they're epic beers. I love to drink these beers, but they sell terribly.
Yeah, we've always had amazing feedback on them as well. So one of the best accolades we get as brewers isn't an award like you get a gold medal for that beer, and usually we're like, well, that's great, and it does give you a nice bit of an ego boost, but there's nothing better than having another brewer basically taste your beer and say, wow, that's amazing. It just is. That's a better feeling for us than that. So when we get people come and try our black IPAs or our India stouts or all these things, and they're like, oh god, that's amazing, we're like, brilliant. And then we put it on general sale and no one buys it. It's just because the public don't appreciate the style, unfortunately.
It's beyond the easy win as well, isn't it? I think, and that's the lovely thing when you get companions in the industry who appreciate that you've taken something that's really hard to do and you execute it really well, and it does mean a whole lot.
So I love Kernel beers and I love everything that they do, but what I particularly love of what they do is anything they do in that dark hoppy genre.
Yeah.
So the traditional porters,
what I love
browns,
about that,
all that kind of stuff.
what I love about that brewery is they just continue to do their own thing. You know what I mean? It's like things have changed massively, but they are very much consistent and the same. And they've been around for a very long time, and obviously they get those granddaddy rights for it. But it's, you know, they do have that like staunch stand of like, nah, this is who we are, and they're not too fussed with what's going on in the outside
We're going
world.
to make this volume. We're going to sell that out. We're going to do the way we want to do it, but all of it will be epic because it is.
So apparently we haven't drank this Imperial Stout quick enough because we're getting nudges from Juice Forsyth, Peter Riley.
I'm pretty much finished.
Hey Pete, Kerry.
How are you doing, guys? So we need to move on to this and.
Oh my God, there's more.
Okay, quickly then, while we're waiting to open this one, is there a beer you've always wanted to bring back but haven't? That's from Alan. Well, yes, and good news is we're bringing it back this year. So the beer that I've always wanted to bring back was Blood Eagle. So Blood Eagle is a blood orange and grapefruit IPA. It's low ABV, and if you go to a beer festival and you're feeling a little bit rough the next day, this is like the beer you want to drink in the morning. but people weren't like over the top for it initially, but we loved it. So this is the type of beer I want to bring back. Another one in a similar.
Sorry, Mark.
I've got it here. Another beer that we brewed in a similar thing where the public didn't love it, but we all did. Was we brewed a table beer, and I think the reason the public didn't love it at the time was they didn't really realise that a sub 3% beer was an intentional thing where we wanted to brew something that was supposed to be super low ABV, super sessionable, and we did a. Do you remember what it's called? The table beer.
Tamarind?
Tamarind. No, Tamarind was no, it wasn't that one. But it was a super cool beer, and I loved it because it was.
What's called tamarind?
No, that was the one with tamarind in, wasn't it?
No, that was tamarindo.
Oh right.
I can see why you were mistaken.
Yeah, I did because it's so close. But yeah, no, that was the first table beer we did. We are going to do a table beer at this kit because we're going to do it properly. We're going to brew a Imperial IPA, I guess, double IPA, and then
If we had the tank capacity, we could do a table beer off our beer.
Yeah.
So I'll go into a brief geeking out. So basically a double IPA means you need all the sugar, as much sugar as possible as you can get from the malt. So when we go into the mash tun, we add the water, we basically extract the sugar. We get lots and lots of really high intensity concentrated sugar into the kettle to boil and make the beer with. We're left with lots of malt in the mash tun that still has sugar left. And normally we have no use for that. So that goes in the grain silo and goes across to the farmer for the cows to eat. But there's sugar in there, and you could take that sugar out and you could actually still make beer with it. So back in the olden days when me and Lee were born, you used to go to work and you used to drink beer at work because it was the safest way. It was safer than drinking water. But basically the table beer was what you drink while you're at work because it was the second runnings of the malt. So all the sugar had been put into the good beer, and what was left was the last bit of sugar in the malt. They'd carry on brewing that, and you'd end up with something sub 3%, which is called the table beer, and people would either drink that during the day at work or they drink it on the evenings, and it's really nice. It's basically fully flavoured beer, but it's just not strong, and people see it as sub certain percentage, and they assume it's not great, but it is. And these guys are drinking their beer, and I haven't had a chance yet because I'm talking. Give me my Mocha, man! Oh yeah!
Carry on talking. Yeah. I can't believe you did that. Oh yeah! That was if I had the chance. I was going to do that at the start when we. Oh, never mind.
So this
anyway,
is
So I mean, if we had the prompt sheet up there, we could probably start telling you about it.
Now we've forgotten everything.
So anyway, when we bring our next table beer out, guys, hopefully you'll.
I've remembered.
Right. So what we can say, yeah, it's good, isn't it?
Ooh,
yeah. Oh yeah!
Wow.
That's how we do it.
So that's how you get the bourbon. Wow.
I mean, yeah. It just hits.
That's
That just hits.
18 months in wood with bourbon.
So we need a bit of warmth because ours is quite cold, but hopefully you guys at home have got a little bit warmer than we have, and hopefully we're getting all the ooh yeah quotes coming through.
I mean, I drank this at home the other day for the first time, and Wayne and I have a friend called Travis who lives over in Texas, and once a year he brings across these American beers, and it's all the American beers that don't get exported, so you'd have no chance of getting them in the UK. And like Wayne, he's a big fan of Imperial Stouts. He brings all these epic Imperial Stouts over. And I might be blowing down on the trumpet a little bit here, but this very much has the character of some of that stuff that he brings over for me.
Yeah, these are the ones that he brings across are the ones that you pay 30, 40 quid a bottle for, because you never see them in the UK, but
Just rare beer.
well, I can't. My favourite beer, and I know they're multinational owned now, but it's Goose Island,
Bourbon County.
Suburban County.
You can't argue with it.
As soon as I see bourbon, every year I will spend whatever it costs to have a few bottles of that, one to drink, one to save, and then probably 2 free to drink. I don't know, but I love that beer. I love.
Oh yeah, you just bought 4 bottles and I bought 5 bottles, and we both paid the same price.
Yeah. So
No, the other way around. No.
But yeah, it's certainly not cheap. It's 20 quid plus a bottle, and Ours isn't cheap. That's £9 a can. It's not exactly cheap, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper than that. And
If you think about the time it's
we've
spent
spent 18 months
in
in
the
barrels.
cask, it's
We don't have the reputation those guys do, but at the same time, we give the love and respect to the beer, and I'm really pleased with that. That's barrel aged. Which one's the Buffalo Trace? Empress Tom Coco is probably my favourite beer we've ever done. This isn't far off, and maybe by the end of the night, once it warms up, it might overtake
Well,
it.
prior to this, my favourite was so we do the Tom Coco series of beers, which is the coconut cacao tonka vanilla, and we do it at various different strands, and then we did barrel aged versions, and we did in the first year 3 different barrel aged versions. There was Jack Daniel's. Buffalo Trace and Wild Turkey. Wild Turkey was my favourite, Buffalo Trace was your favourite. And then this is Wild Turkey again, and I absolutely love this. Maybe I just have a thing for Wild Turkey.
Well, this year we did the Heaven Hill on the Empress, and it's good, but I'm drawn straight away Buffalo Trace again. I don't know what it is. It's just
Well, you like what you like, I guess.
But any bourbon at barrel aged beer for me is hits. So we've tried a few, and we've. I saw someone make a comment saying, on Untapped, because I'm a fiend for looking at it. I don't know why, but they said, it's miles better than because this is called our State of Mind range. The State of Mind is our barrel aged beers. We basically keep them for at least 12 months, as long as we can, and we're going to launch them at least one a month this year, we hope, of our State of Mind beers. But we're going to do what we can.
We will average that over the year. We don't have enough actually in barrel to achieve that immediately.
But yeah, what we
I have to do the caveat bit. But.
So the first one we did was it was only 7.5%, but it was a cherry version of Tom Coco, and it was aged in red.
Did you say 7.5%? It was 10.5%.
Yeah, it tasted 7.5, but it was only 10. It was at 10.5, and it was in red wine barrels, and it was so cool. It was so different to anything we've done.
Beautiful burgundy, first pass. Yeah, so nice.
So bourbon's massively overpowered. Well, not overpowering if you like bourbon, but if you don't like bourbon, then you're probably going to think of it something a bit funny from drinking a bourbon at barrel aged beer. But if you drink that, the red wine was so good on it.
You've got them stacking up.
I've been just piling me here. I mean, I haven't read half of them.
I'll do some interactive ones. So Ian Hay, I thought barrel aged cherry Tom Coco, which happened to be State of Mind version 1, Flux 1, was good, but oh my word, cherry Tom Coco was phenomenal. That's from Bill. Tonight's beers are so good my phone is in focus without my glasses. I can't see the telly though.
That's a proper eye squint.
Ian joined us. Was it last time we had an audience?
Peter Riley.
No, Ian. That you just read the message out.
No, that's Peter, and that's who joined us. The first one was Ian, but
Anyway,
Here's a pretty good one, actually, guys. So, how do you decide which beer to put into what barrel?
Flavour profiles usually.
Definitely that. Flavour profile and what you think can stand up to that type of character. So, I think as you were just saying there, the union of dark stout porter and bourbon, it's almost no fail. You're kind of hard to go wrong with that one.
I mean, yeah, and just for anybody who's is not lucky enough to have one of these in their hand right now, the hit of wood, bourbon and chocolate off this beer is absolutely astounding.
Nuts, isn't it?
It just completely punches you.
There is actually a lot of coffee in the beer, but the other flavours are there, so you don't
I get the chocolate massively more than anything, to be honest.
I'm not a massive coffee fan, but that is coffee.
Yeah.
But it is coffee in a way that I can handle.
I like that. How has it gone? It's scrolled up now.
Sorry, but before you get into that, there's a couple of bits we haven't mentioned. First of all, we should say that the original beer was a collab. It was brewed with our friends across in Knaresborough, Turning Point. What? Because I paused a bit. I've had a few drinks. I've got Nadia cringing off camera. As if I'm going to forget Cameron and Aaron. I mean, come on. And I think the reason that the flavours are all coming through so well, because it's rounded and balanced, is double infused.
Yeah.
So before it went into barrel, it was
Okay.
infused with cacao and coffee.
Yeah.
And then when it came back out of barrel, it was infused with cacao. In fact, no, first time around it had chilaka. Have you ever used that before?
No.
Chilaka is liquid cacao.
Oh no, I have
Yeah.
used shellac. Yeah, sorry, apologies.
So that was the first time
It's
out.
the brand name thing.
And it was a nightmare to work with because
It gets real heavy and it just sinks
it
out.
just sinks, And you can end up with clumpy cans,
Yeah.
which we then weren't happy with.
but eventually, when we got that out of the beer, we got it through, and then second time round, we went straight infusion with cacao, which is the little nib things that you would make chocolate from for anyone who doesn't know. And then a second infusion with, we used my favourite. This is going to be weird because I don't like coffee, but I do have a coffee I like to brew with, which is it's an Arabica from the Medellin Mountains. And I think it's just because I like the association with the Medellin Mountains, which is where Pablo Escobar came from.
Nice.
So we had a really cool question come in there from Craig Chester. Apologies if anyone else has got a cool question and I haven't spotted it. What's the backstory to calling these beers State of Mind? So this is me and Leo, obviously pun heavy and pun mad. So when we first came up with the Brew York name concept, we listed loads of different things that we wanted to do, and then we brought some beers out that incorporated them and some we didn't. And one of the ones we always wrote down was State of Mind. So that you might be familiar, there's a song called
Billy Joel.
New York State of Mind. So we always said Brew York State of Mind, and we never brought a beer out like that. And then when we came up with this series of beers, we're like, well, it's going to be called State of Mind because that's a really cool, like, separate concept and separate series we can do. And these beers will always be called State of Mind, and then it has other connotations as well. So you're going to be in that state of mind to drink a really good barrel-aged beer.
And if you weren't by the time you started,
you'll be in a good state of mind by the end of it.
Anyway.
So yeah, we thought it was a really cool name that goes along with the concept we always wanted to do. So that's where State of Mind came from. And it makes me think now of Alicia Keys and
That's right,
Brew York. So go on, sing it then, Lee.
I mean, whenever I hear that song, I just insert Brew York into the lyrics.
That's
So it's,
literally
just like, it's a mental association.
Yeah, it's done now.
there you go. That's the how do I get a match? How do I get a macho man? Is this a
Macho man.
Well, like Sunita
Lee
Macho
wants to
Man.
be a macho man.
I'm not sure I have the answer for that one. Would you like a go?
How do I get a macho man? I mean, I assume it's the
No, I don't think she's looking for a beer.
Oh, is
No,
someone
I mean, Randy
asking
Savage
if you're not part of our subscription and you want to know how you can get a can of that, it launches on our web shop on Monday.
Oh, there you go.
So
I thought she was literally looking
I thought it was looking for an actual Randy Savage macho man, like. You know?
So how do you get a macho man? Yeah. So basically, the one answer, if it relates to beer, the answer is that we haven't launched this beer. If you're lucky enough to have one, you've pre-ordered it. The actual beer launches on Monday. We have about 300
And
cans
if you meant the
available.
alternative, I believe it's called Tinder.
Yeah, because that works in lockdown, I guess. Doesn't apparently.
Doesn't. No.
But if you're familiar with
We even know this.
when we launch our barrel aged beers, Empress sold out in about 4 hours a couple of weeks ago. So when Mocha Man launches officially on Monday, you probably have to be quick. So 9 o'clock it goes on sale. Be quick.
You want to be quick because I'm drinking this at a rate of
We
knots.
might drink it all tonight if there's any left.
14%. So
it's so good.
it's
It is so good.
it's actually dangerously easy to drink. This is not going to end well.
Yeah. So there, yeah.
So, I mean, on that, what I would say is one of the reasons you put a beer in wood is it softens over time. And that's two things. That's just compounds in there naturally degrading over time and becoming slightly more subtle. But it's also an interaction with the wood which creates something called vanillin, so-called, because it's like vanilla, it has a certain smoothness to it. But there's other interactions with the wood going on which breaks down some of the compounds in there and changes them into different types of flavour compound. I'm totally in love with this beer.
It's really good, man.
So any plans to barrel age with other spirits? You've mentioned Grand Marnier. So we do a beer called Clockwork Orange. Grand Marnier was the number one barrel we wanted to age that in, because we were thinking chocolate orange would work well with that. Instead, we found.
Well, I mean, on that, we could do a little teaser, because our next State of Mind release number 3 will be Chocolate Orange, but that one's been aged in Masala, which is sweet dessert
It's my
white
favourite
wine.
curry. Oh, no, it's not that one.
No, not that one. No, we've not spiced it. So it's been aged in Masala barrels, which is sweet dessert wine.
So
But the original intention was to source something like a triple sec or a Grand Marnier barrel. We've now sourced those. We're brewing that beer again soon. Next time it gets laid down, it will be in Grand Marnier.
So this is the first time actually we've ever done anything sub 10% in bourbon barrels, isn't it? Or is it?
What is? Oh yes, sorry. Yeah, it is, yeah.
Because we've done a few experimental stuff, but I can't think of any big releases we've done that are sub 10%. So this will actually be a sessionable barrel-aged beer, or maybe we don't liquor it back and we just go with whatever the barrel adds to it. No, we can't do that.
We're not allowed. HMRC will be honest if we do that.
But yeah, we'll have to liquor it back to keep it at the same strength as it went in the barrel. But yeah, I might try some before we liquor it back and enjoy that.
Yeah, I don't think there's any rules against that. So sorry guys, we'll enjoy it at full strength. You guys will have to have the
legal version.
The legal version. Yes.
But yeah, we got some really, really cool barrel aged beers coming up this year. State of Mind, off the top of your head, John Biscotti, we've already mentioned that. HYG, I was about to say another name, which I can't say. The barrel aged version of that comes out.
Two different types of bourbon barrel. We've got that one. Yeah.
That's going to be immense. And then we've got
one that is completely original in barrel, a Mexican Mole Stout.
Yeah. We
didn't even release that as a beer. It went straight into barrel. I think that's the next. That's going to be State of Mind 4, I believe.
Yeah. So we've got some pretty cool stuff, and then we're gonna. Someone said a mention earlier about any cool breweries we're going to brew with this year. Well, we're actually, and then someone else said another question saying. Are you going to do anything special for your birthday? Because so-and-so have smashed it this year with their birthday. Well, our 4th birthday was immense. We got locked down and we did not much because of it. So our 5th birthday...
We cried into our pints in a bar that could have been open.
So we realised that this year we were probably going to lock down still. The dates Bojo was mentioning about reopening was at the 9th of April 2021, which happens to be our 5th birthday. It's like he's teasing us, because there's no way we're going to open that day, and even if we did, there's no way we're going to be able to do a festival.
Well, I was chatting with Stu, which is a brewer friend of ours from North Riding in Scarborough, who did you meet when he was across earlier today? Possibly. And he was saying what he's heard is that April is going to be bars reopening for takeaway.
Alcohol,
what kind of business is that for most bars? So they can do takeaway on beer that most of them have had to pour down the drain by this point, I imagine. And then April, the reason they're doing that in April, is in May, full opening, no tears. I mean, that bit I'm on board with. I don't really want to open up under this restricted system again.
But yeah,
and if we have to wait a little bit longer to
I think that's
way,
it,
maybe
let's just get it done and then we can go back tomorrow.
I would like that. I mean, business-wise, not great, but
in terms of brewing some cool collab beers, so yeah, we couldn't do anything for our 4th birthday. For our 5th birthday, we've gone big. We've got a big theme we're going to talk to you all about once we're ready to. But
remember, we're only dropping hints at this point.
So we've got some awesome breweries that we've wanted to work with for a long time, and we've used this time to make sure we can. So what we're going to tell them, I don't know. Well, one thing we can tell you, we're going to go ABV.
We can do that.
Every single one of these 5 beers are going to be barrel aged. We're going to launch them, and we're going to launch these beers, brew these beers, launch these beers for our birthday, and we're going to barrel age them at the same time. So in a year's time for our 6th birthday, or maybe sooner, we'll see.
We'll give them that bit. They're going to be 5. There will be 11, 12, 13, 14, 15%.
That's fantastic.
So just the small ABVs.
Just the normal ones.
So
you know what everyone else does.
Normal things that normal people
all 5 beers are going to be stouts.
They're all going to be stouts.
So if you don't like stouts, then
Again, really
we'll
normal.
do other beers for you. But not these ones. And those 5 beers are going to be way different stouts. Not one of them will taste anything like the other.
And other than that, we're going to tell you 2 things. Wayne's going to tell you one of the people that we're going to be working with.
Am I? Who? They begin with T.
That's the one.
So we've been trying to work for this brewery for quite a while, and we've had lots of ideas and how we do it. But one of our birthday collabs is with the guys from Tiny Rebel. So we've been waiting to do this for so long. So I'm not telling you which ABV stout it is, but one of them is the Tiny Rebel collab.
Yeah, and we're working with 2 internationals that we're not naming right now. And the only other bit I'm going to tell you is when I mentioned earlier something weird in a high quantity was going to go into one of these. At least I think I mentioned that.
The first brew, yeah. On Friday.
The very first brew, we're going to be putting 350 kilos of honeycomb in here. So that's over 1/3 of a ton of honeycomb.
That's a lot.
That's going to go into here.
That's a lot of sugar to
That's
then
a
keep
lot of
fermenting.
sugar.
Yeah. So
As to how we use that honeycomb, you're going to have to wait and see.
So we sourced about 1/4 of a ton of honeycomb, and then a local honeycomb supplier said, "We love beer. Let's do something." We're like,
Where do you get 1/4 ton of honeycomb? I mean, like,
You asked
other
that
than
man about
crunchy or something, like, you know.
Matt,
just wanna-
Matt, how do you go about getting 1/4 of a ton of honeycomb?
Finding. Excuse me. I found as many confectionery suppliers in Yorkshire as I could, and then there was one that could do it within the time scale we needed.
So the answer to that was,
a lot of effort.
Matt, our new head brewer, pretty much rang every confectionery supplier in North Yorkshire and managed to find one that could do it. So there you go. That's how you get 1/4 of a ton of honeycomb.
So we got a cool one there saying. So from Alan Humphreys, do you see the subs boxes and videos being a mainstay once we come out of lockdown? Not local, so I enjoy the interaction. 100%. We've been talking about this for so long. So we thought that before the end of 2020, we would be in some sort of normality by now, and we'd be able to come out and go back to bars. And one of the things we planned on doing straight away was keep the live feed going, keep the interaction going, where we could film in our bar, talking to you guys and doing this interaction. So that didn't happen, so we've had to keep on doing what we were doing. So we're going to 100% keep doing this, and we're going to try and make them more interesting with live audiences. So.
Do you know what I think we'd not even mentioned was when I was writing the notes for this is the 10th time we've done this.
I suspect we're getting close to a year, aren't we? So.
Guys, I think one of the coolest things, I mean, upshots of lockdown is that it's brought the consumer so close to the brewery.
Yeah.
And we've removed a lot of the kind of barriers that it's a veil of what's actually happening and getting down to the source and speaking literally with you guys and
as we are right now.
Exactly.
And we've always been super approachable. We were probably me more than anyone else. I literally hang around in our bar all the time. Whoops.
What, you?
But we're always super approachable. We've done this from day one. When we were literally, we'd alternate weekends where we'd brew, sell, do everything, and then one of us would have to work the weekend, and we'd work our tap rooms, and then and then the one would do the next weekend. So we've had this from the day we launched Brew York, where it's been such a cool thing where you've had a really tough physical week in the brewery, but you get in the tap room and you get some customers say, "Oh my god, I love this!"
You
and
see the
it
smiles.
perks you up. Yeah. And you've had such a hard
you see
week.
the
but you're
satisfaction.
Exactly, it's such a cool thing that we didn't really. Yeah, it's like, oh god, I'll carry on working weekends. It's amazing. And then eventually, we're like, yeah, we can't keep working every weekend. But then we carried on anyway.
That was one of the things I loved about the career change from. Once upon a time, I worked in an office and it was crap. Surprise, surprise! Yeah, working in an office is crap. Who don't know that? But to come across into a career where you can immediately see the fruits of your labour. So you make a product, within 3 weeks, it's in someone's glass. And they're stood in front of you going...
They're smiling.
Yeah.
And they're enjoying it. And it's
exactly.
It's the best feeling in the world.
What is more satisfying than that?
It is.
Instant, It's great to see on tap that people love our beer. That's brilliant when you see that. And obviously it's disappointing when they don't love the beer, but it's a really good way of getting feedback. But there's nothing better than a customer drinking it. There in front of you see that in their eyes. And especially when it's something absolutely nuts like this, where people don't even know about it, and then they taste it. and you see just that they
It's the
weren't
initial
expecting
physical
it,
reaction, right?
And when we do events and festivals, because that's usually when we launch them like this, it's so cool when you. We did the Craft Beer Festival a couple of years ago, and we basically got a massive block of blue cheese, which sounds really weird, and we had a beer like this ready to launch.
That was good cheese.
We're giving people the beer, and they're like, "Oh, that's amazing." I said, "This is going to sound weird.
Cheese.
Try the blue cheese." That what blue cheese and stout, and then they tried the cheese on the round, and then they tried the stout. And they're like, "Oh my god, game changer!" And just all these weird things that you wouldn't ever expect, and people. You can do that interaction with them, and we can tell you guys to do it now, but it's not the same because you haven't let the cheese warm up to the temperature. We haven't caught you by surprise and done that. But
if you encounter us at a future beer festival, we will bring blue cheese. I'm committing us to that one.
Lee's going to keep it in his
That's
pocket.
in the company articles. It's happening.
Yeah, once Lee takes the blue cheese out of his pocket, then you need to get the stout out. But yeah.
Right. Good question here, and please do keep sending in questions like this. What does liquor back mean? So yeah, if we do get a little bit technical and you're not getting what we're saying, please do ask. So that's from Owen. So what liquor it back means is if the beer is stronger than you intend it to be, you need to dilute it with some straight up water. So liquoring it back is just taking it back to the strength that it should be using water.
So I'm just reading comments about people and the warm cheese they've got ready to eat now, so stop it. I'm getting jealous now. So yeah, we've, like usual, we've talked more than the normal 2 hours. We're happy to keep going. If you guys have got questions, we'll keep answering them, but I'm going to have to use my usual excuse and take the scheduled toilet break.
Right, what question
Has JT even been
I've
for
got
one?
JT's favourite New York beer place.
He's fake. He hasn't even been to the toilet. He's a robot. It doesn't work. It doesn't count. He's a robot.
I don't eat, I don't sleep. I just drink.
Right, so what was the question?
What is JT's favourite New York beer place? I love the way they said please after and then signed off their name on it, which is lovely. Do you know, I think it's probably this. It's Randy Savage. Like, it is incredibly complex and strong and deep, and yeah, you say, so you get that turkey, the wood, the smoke, everything, man. Yeah, I reckon that's it. It also might be that it's the last beer we're having, and it's very strong.
On camera. So there are some other bits that we need to tell you about this point. Is we always close out by telling you what's coming up next. So things that we do have coming up soon. We've already named a couple of these. So we've got Mash Bandicoot, which is Mosaic single hop pale. We've got All Because, which is the chocolate chili cherry stout, coming at 4.8%. As discussed earlier, both of those are going to be in your pack next time. We then got Thunder Truck, which I believe is out in the next week. I really love the artwork for this particular one. So it's Goose Willis is our Gooseberry Pale guy, and it's a action hero goose in a white string vest. So for Thunder Truck, he's driving a monster truck over the top of one of the cars from one of our other beers. You need to see it, man. It looks cool. Yeah, trust me on that one. The branding's epic. Other thing I have on my list is a beer called The Consultants. What do we know about that? We have Dradus, going to be the pinnacle of your box next time. Russian Imperial Stout coming in at 12%. And then Wayne, just back in time, what beers do we have returning for next time?
Excuse me while I just finish my John Biscotti that I didn't earlier, while I then swig my Mocha Man. No, what we got coming back, or new?
I've done coming soon, but before you get into that, Matt, 2-minute warning. If I was about to step JD down and bring JT, sorry,
Jack Daniels, JD.
Let me just go to the jokes and I'll come join you.
Right, you've got 3-minute warning. You're on camera soon, and think about what you're going to tell people. Is that right?
What sort of things
Okay. No, don't worry. We can't preempt you. It depends what they ask you. It's live. It's YouTube. So
in about 3 minutes' time, we're going to have our new head brewer on camera with us here. So if you have any questions specifically for him, then
in the meantime, I'll quickly fire through what's returning soon. If you've got any more questions for JT, fire them in now, and we'll hopefully answer them before Matt steps in. So returning beers, we've got the ever favourite extra brownie pint, so the imperial version of brownie pints, awesome beer. Hopefully you guys love it as well. We've got a chocolate story. So normally it'd be the food festival around this time of the year, and then we usually do something for Easter with chocolate involved. So chocolate story's coming back for that. Triple H, the original Brew York hazy beer, hoppy, hazy,
And also
heavenly.
the original wrestling reference beer that we have.
First
We've done a few
ever
now,
wrestling.
of which this is one.
And then Rhubarber Streisand extra custard edition's coming back soon. We've got the Dipper favourite Raquel Welsh is coming back in can very shortly. Viva La Guavalution, which was originally called
Che Guava.
Shea Guava Cava. We had to rename it to Viva La Guavalution because we are rubbish sometimes at checking existing.
Turns out someone north of
references.
the border was already using the name we were using.
And then so before we hand over to Matt, any more questions for JT? What's under JT's hat?
Oh, it's awful top knot.
And then
When did that come about?
I haven't so I had this thing where I was like, I wasn't going to cut the top of my hair until lockdown was over, and we're technically not really over, so I've just kept it going.
there's a laugh off camera from somebody who's known JT for longer than we have.
Do you know, when I was 17 years old, that's how my hair used to look. I used to have the long hair with the undercut.
Your hair looks like that now. When you were 17.
It's just down.
I don't have the undercut, but otherwise, right in everywhere.
But Lee spends about 80 quid on a trim. It's crazy how much money he spends on his hair.
I used to spend a lot of money on haircuts, but now I have a haircut once every 6 months, and it costs me 15 quid.
Nice.
Yeah.
I just do my own now. That's why I look shit. I don't care. We're in lockdown. So
My head was cold.
cheers, guys, and a massive cheers to JT.
Cheers,
obviously,
Cheers, man. Thanks to JT. So, come into camera now.
a little camera. Swap it over.
So this is Matt, who you've heard us talk about many times, our new head brewer.
What's under your hat?
It's a rather bad hairstyle, I'm afraid.
So Matt's got hair under there as well.
Nobody has good hat hair.
So we've had loads of messages for now you looking at Viking for £80 covers me for a year. Will Matt
Right,
Go on
so,
then, far away.
Matt, we've already heard that you want to bring a lager to the Brew York portfolio. Is there anything else that you would like to bring to our portfolio? Anything else that you particularly want to do in the year to come?
I was just saying to Josh, the two things that will make me most happy, one is a lager, and two is bringing back something like the Bluebell IPA.
amazing cask beer.
I've been lucky enough to travel around the world, and cask beer is something that is unique to the UK. Nobody else does it, and it is, in my mind, the king of beers. And I truly hope that the last year of lockdowns hasn't changed that.
Well, you'd have to imagine with these lockdowns, it's never been lower.
No, correct.
It's never been more jeopardised than it is right now.
Correct.
But people like you just highlighted there have a very, very soft space in their heart for it, as I do. I miss it like nothing else. I want to be in that pub, at that bar, drinking that cask bang.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you'll go to different pubs, and then you'll find the one. It might not be your pub of choice, but you'll have a beer, and it'll be like, okay, this is it. We're going to stay here, and you just finish it.
You can, the session cask beer, the 4-ish% cash.
To me,
Cask
to me,
beer.
that is the king of beers.
Where you literally turn up. The amount of times when we first started speaking to you about this job, and many other people who we've brought into our brewery, walked them round, talked about what we're going to do, and then the first place we go to when we leave site is the Bluebell, because it's on the route. It's the oldest pub in York. It's the smallest pub in York.
Fabulous pub.
They serve our beer, and it's one of our really cool original cask beers. Nothing fancy, really simple hops, just a really good cask beer with a landlord who keeps it really well.
And that's
and
important
it's just so nice. And you can stay in there all night. And we don't want to stay in there because we want to then go and take you somewhere else and talk to you about other
But
things.
if the beer is right.
Warm fire, nice beer, and a landlord, a really good landlord. There's not much else you could want. But yeah, unfortunately we can't have that.
So we've got a question for you here, Matt. What's your favourite British lager? I'm not even sure what falls into the category. But
Meantime,
No. Meantime's not bad actually, but I wouldn't buy a British lager. I would always go German. We, as a nation, never give beers long enough, and I can't tell you how excited I am that these guys have let me lager a beer for 2 or 3 months. It's going to be stunning. When I was in America, we did a thing where every week of the lagering, we would take a couple of kegs out of the fermenter and serve it on the bar as Keller beer. And the way it developed through that, the last month or two, was really interesting. And
perhaps that's something we can replicate?
Absolutely. That's the plan. So, do we go on and tell people about the plan for the tap room? Do we give that teaser out if anyone's still hung around this long?
Well, they probably earned it if they've hung around this long.
So if you stayed with us this long, then we think you deserve to know, and especially if you're a York resident, then we've got some pretty cool plans when we reopen. One of the really cool plans is the super fresh Keller beer concept, where you literally get to drink the beer straight from tank. So lots of bars, lots of other people have done this before, but we've obviously had a brewery, so we couldn't give up the tank space to do this. So we bought some more tanks to do that. So we're going to have fresh tank beer as soon as, hopefully as soon as we reopen, we'll have fresh tank beer available, and one of them will be the lager, one of them will be, we'll tell you what the other beers
It'll
are.
be a low ABV sessionable pale. We don't know what yet.
Hopefully our
Hopefully Looper Line.
yeah.
But yeah, we're going to have loads of fresh tank beer. We could do it really gimmickly and put fake copper pipes up. So we'll just tell you that we are going to have fresh tank beer. You'll know it's coming from the tank because you'll see it. But
Yeah, no, I think all these things are really exciting, and I'm an engineer. I'm interested in process. You guys have these wacky, crazy ideas, and it's something that I couldn't do. But what I can do is translate what you are thinking of into process and hopefully great beers.
So this is why Matt and I get on so well. He translates my madness.
And as I said, I'm most excited about what most people would consider to be the simple stuff. Making a great lager is actually very, very difficult because there's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
With most beers, there are various levels of flavour that you add to the beer at different points. In lager, there is absolutely nowhere to hide, and it's a great test of a brewer's craft.
It's a great test of a brewer's craft, and to complete the circle. So what we said right at the start of this, when we were talking about the possibility of this Mexican lager, was that it was all about water, and it was all about you needed to have low mineral content. You're going to have this clean, crisp hop profile coming through, but because you've got such low flavour level things in there, that if you do anything imperfectly, if you're completely off on your hygiene, if you miss any little thing that you're supposed to,
It's very, very obvious.
it is obvious. There is nothing to hide behind. So
I caught a little bit of what you were saying earlier. What I'll add is that it's no coincidence that the great brewing towns are where they are. It's a quirk of the water that they have. Burton you mentioned, Dublin
is the other classic example for
Edinburgh, and Pilsen and Munich to a degree as well. And we have the ability here to replicate those waters and make the beers at least as well as they do there. And if the guys hadn't invested in the kit, for the RO water, I probably wouldn't have joined them, because it's the 95% of the beer. It will make the difference.
yeah, I mean, if you're not thinking about that, you shouldn't be in this game. Quite frankly.
So you two can stop geeking out for a second. We've got some interaction with customers. So we got from Alan. Oh no, it wasn't Alan Smith. Well, it was Alan Smith. I read one directed at me, and I know I've lost it because it was about what percentage of customers do we see as being local versus further away. It's really hard to interact. York's such a huge tourist city that we see customers coming in, week out, and we assume they're local, but they actually travel into York to see us, which is an amazing thing to have. When we first opened the tap room, when we opened the beer hall, it was a much bigger beast. So the tap room, we had much more direct interaction with people. When we opened the beer hall, we still have a lot of interaction with people, but not quite the same because you see people moving between venues. Whereas we used to go into the tap room and we'd be working and we'd see people and we were like talking to them, and you'd assume they're from York, and then the next time you see them, like, oh, well, where were you last Saturday? It's like, oh, my train got cancelled. Like, what do you mean your train got cancelled? It's like, oh yeah, travelling from Hartlepool. You're like, what? I didn't realise that. You're in every Saturday. I just assumed you lived in York. So
we used to have, there was a guy that came in from Sunderland every week. Yeah, you never know. It depends on how happy people are with their local markets as to how far they're going to travel to find what they want.
But obviously, then we went into local lockdown where people shouldn't have been travelling between areas, and it's been such a confusing year. So I can't wait till it gets back to normal where people can actually come in from wherever they live and jump on the train, come and see us. It'd be awesome.
Although I'm sorry, guys, to be honest with you, I won't be there because I'll be somewhere else in another bar. Because I've missed it as much as you guys have.
And we'll probably there's going to be a backlog of festivals and events, but we will obviously all love to see you in one place or one place wherever we're doing it. We'd love to see you guys.
I'd say equally that in the last year, certainly, we've been limited by the amount of beer we can make. So there's not necessarily been the need to sell wider than our local sphere. Whereas going forwards, we're going to be able to make a lot more beer, and hopefully that will make it more widely available. Yeah,
definitely. There's going to be who knows what's going to happen in the next few weeks. If we're going to get some weird restriction where we're going to get to open again, normal, whatever it is, we'll be ready for it, and we'll do something different.
We'll be ready to a point. I mean, if we get the same sort of notice that the government has given us so far, you can't make cask beer in that time. No. So our doors will be open, and we will have beer for you, but don't necessarily expect cask beer. And for all those venues out there that have been hurt the most, which is generally the ones that are more wet-led, more cask-led,
correct,
then what are they supposed to do at 5 minutes notice? Because they haven't got a product to serve. So, anyway, sorry.
It's that frustration that we all get this. It's for us, we love cask beer. We want cask beer back. We want to brew a load of cask beer now, ready for the pubs to reopen. We can't do that because we don't even know when pubs are going to reopen. And harping on about flogging a dead horse. We've poured so much beer down the drain this last 12 months, and it's all been cask beer. We haven't poured any keg beer or can beer down because that carbonated beer will last. We poured so much cask beer down the drain, and we vowed that we wouldn't do it again. And we brewed a load of cask beer, and we had to pour it down the drain again. And it's so disheartening for us as brewers and obviously businessmen and all the rest of it. But more frustrating more than anything else is we could have brewed anything. We could have brewed any beer during lockdown, and it could have been canned beer. But we tried to look at cask beer to try and look at what was happening with pubs. And it backfired again, second time.
But like everyone else, we carried on in good faith that these tiers were going to work and things were going to open up, and they could only ever work if we had beer to be. But anyway,
so we're not going to whinge about it too much. But cask beer is 100% going to be part of our future. We will always brew cask beer. I can't see ever a time when we won't brew it. And someone can video capture this and play it back to me when we ever say, "Oh, we're going to stop brewing cask beer." But we love cask beer. There's no reason why we wouldn't brew it. If we're getting a situation like this where we can't sell it to somebody, then we'll slow it down. But we will.
How many times have we waxed lyrical tonight about what we're missing?
Exactly, cask beer is what we want, and can beer is amazing. It serves a purpose, but cask beer is we're old. We just want a pint in the local.
So, have we got any more questions? Are these ones left from before? Alright, let's see. Alright, this one might work. So, Matt, Favourite Brew York beer since joining?
I saw that earlier.
So how long have you been with us now?
BFG? Is
Three,
BFG
4
your
months.
favourite?
BFG is not my favourite.
3 or 4 months, so you've not been exposed to the entire portfolio.
No.
But what you've drunk in
Decent
that
portion.
time.
It would not be BFG. I hope that I managed to tease BFG into something that was drinkable.
You did? Yep.
I have a very soft spot for rhubarb sour.
That was awesome.
Personally, I don't particularly like the rhubarb because it's a bit too sweet for me, but what's great about the sour beer is the sour and the sweet complement each other perfectly, and it makes it a beautifully balanced beer. And I know that my wife will be deeply disappointed if it doesn't get rebrewed in the next 6 months.
Well, judging by the way the sales went, we love that beer, but releasing it in autumn winter, we've decided is probably not the best thing.
It was amazing.
Next time you're most likely to see that, I suspect, will be a summer one.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the guava beer that we're brewing in 2 or 3 weeks' time, because I think that might have a similar sweet-sour thing going on. The other beer that I've really enjoyed was Lemons Give You Life. A bit like Yuzu, which is another...
because we're bringing a new version out of that out soon, aren't we?
The extra vanilla version?
You guys have brewed an extra vanilla version
Correct.
of When
Yes, we have.
Lemons Give You Life.
Yep.
So When Lemons Give You Vanilla and Life.
In fact, you package that next week, don't you?
yeah.
It's almost like we scripted this.
So anyone, well, not even anyone who likes When Lemons Give You Life. When Lemons Give You Life was one of my favourite tastings from last month.
Absolutely.
This one's got extra vanilla. It's going to be really like.
To be fair, we've not tasted it yet, but you tell us it's got lots of vanilla.
The vanilla is definitely there. If you like vanilla, you'll know.
Vanilla.
And I
You'll
do
like
like
it.
vanilla, so
Oh, you're gonna like it.
there we go.
So guys, we're going to have to wrap up. So thanks for joining us tonight. It's been pretty awesome to have you. We've got anything else to that we forgot to add that we should have added?
No, I'd just like to say, JT, who's off camera back there, thank you, sir. It's been brilliant having you guest. I would like to say to Sam and the Fab Deck team, thank you for all your amazing efforts in creating this beautiful beast behind us. And I know we've got a little way to go yet, man, but yeah, everything you're doing, super appreciated, man. And to everyone else in the Brew York team, whether you're currently with us or you're furloughed, sorry, little we can do about that one. Thank you for everything, guys. I know you give it all whenever you can.
And thanks to everyone who's joined us tonight. Awesome following, and all our subscribers. Got some awesome beers for you guys. So, cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers. Good night.